All right. All right. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for coming to this judges session. I know that this is we're using an online format today to make it a little it's easy because I know not everybody can make it out here, but that's okay. So I know that all the seafoods, thank you so much that for taking the time and also the seafoods that are here present. Um, so I will be posting this video of this recording later on as well, so that way people can review it. But I'm going to make this kind of as painless as possible. And I was hoping more people would be in person, but that's okay. You guys missed out on all the candy and the food and all that fun stuff. So, tough news. But I might maybe do another one maybe next weekend. You need to kind of enjoy it. All right. So what we want to cover real quick in this workshop is judges' roles and responsibilities, about talking about the forms competition, sparring competition, grand champion, some of the troubleshooting and scoring examples, and also some of the sparring examples. That's a lot. That's a lot. There's a lot to cover, but it looks a lot more daunting than it really is. Main thing is we just want to talk about it. I think one of the things that would help from last year that I think a lot of people came to the seminar last year, and then maybe they just kind of forgot about what some of the criteria was. So we really want to help kind of reinforce that and also kind of give some tips on how on judging. So let's cover in the first section. So let's talk about the roles. And I think this is very, very important because I think some of the people were kind of confused, like, well, I'm not really sure if I'm the center judge or the ring judge or whatever. And so we want to make sure that those roles are very clear. I think Sifu Benson has already kind of mapped out some people to be head judge. Those are the people who are the head of the ring. So I want to say this very, very clearly. That their word is law. So, and we need to communicate that to the other schools as well and the other participants. I think there was times when Sifus were coming up last year and they were challenging and complaining to ring judges. And they're saying like, oh, wait a minute, that's not fair, or this is not, my student was supposed to do this. They're not supposed to take those complaints to them. The other thing is that if the center judge makes a ruling on something, or the head judge, then that's what's going to go forward. And I think we need to kind of hold our foot down on that. I think that's important because I'll give you an example. One time there was a school that came in last year, and they didn't want their two students to spar against each other. And what ended up happening, we ended up having a mismatch. So we had like a 250-pound guy fight like a 5-foot, 100-pound guy, just because of that. And I was like, come on, like we as martial artists, we fight our own students all the time. It's sparring, not full on crazy, rock and sock them. So you can still have a competitive match even with your own students. Stuart, you and I, we fought together at a tournament before one time, right? And it was full contact. We didn't clobber each other. We were able to keep it safe and have fun. And I think that's more of a reflection on the students and also their sifus and their teachers. So I think that I think it's definitely doable. So I want to just really reiterate that the head judge is the absolute.
May I add that even though the third judge is responsible for the ring, we do try to have arbitrator for the whole entire all the rings, so that we don't lose a lot of time.
Correct. And that was the next thing I was going to touch on. So I know we had it past there was a main.
They didn't have one last Jason show.
Yeah. So we'll make sure that we designate that point person. There should be like a judge's table, because that's where the scorekeepers are going to turn in all their things, or judge is going to check in and things like that. But if there is any discrepancies, have parents or sifus refer those over to that table. They should not slow down the flow. So our goal is that once the judges start their rings, they should just boom, fly through it very, very quickly. It should not take up a lot of time. They're also going to help direct the other ring judges. So if one ring judge is kind of getting out of line or whatever, then we need to, the head judge will kind of just, wrangle them in. And the other one is also coordinate the timekeepers and scorekeepers. That part's pretty easy. I mean, the timekeepers and scorekeepers already know that they're going to report to the head judge and and do what they have to do. So that part should be pretty easy. Let's see who just came in. Is that Bill? Hi, how's it going, Bill? So for the people that are just coming in, Bill, can you in the chat, can you just type in your name, contact info, your email, and also the school that you're representing, so that way we can give you credit for coming here and also get you all soon. So the next one we want to talk about is the ring judge. So the ring judge these are the ones that are particularly doing the scoring. And so they're going to be judging individual competitors. They're going to be also putting out the judging for the sparring. So these are, I know many of you out here are already Sifus and everything like that, but our ideal people for this are either, the Sifus or are some of our top senior students. And they should have some judging or tournament experience. If they don't, they just say, hey, I know Kung Fu really well, and sometimes that doesn't cut it. And but to help with that, I'm going to cover a topic today about a suggestion, and it's up to the Traditional Chinese Martial Arts Federation or Golden Dragon if they want to adopt this guideline, and I'll talk about it today. The main thing is that also the ring judge has to abide by the judging criteria. They can't just say, what, I decided to give an 11.0 score, and then that's what or if they say like, what, DQ, immediate disqualification. No, it's not the rings judge's job to do that. Actually, the center judge will rule like, okay, it needs to be DQ. They can bring it up and say, hey, you know what? I saw an intentional weapon drop on the ground, or I saw some a behavior or multiple illegal strikes. It's not the ring judge's place to shout out and say DQ, DQ, and they're gonna what they've done in the past is after each round, center judge will pull in the ring judges and say, okay, let's powwow real quick. And let's say, like, what, I saw an illegal hit 2 times. It's already his second warning. And then they'll confer. And then before they start the next ring, they say, like, well, after our ruling, we were going to rule disqualification because of illegal contact. And so, but the ring judges will always defer to the head judge. So I hope everyone's pretty clear on that. Pretty straightforward. Nothing new there. All right, timekeepers. Timekeepers are keeping accurate time, performance, competition, sparring. I know that after talking to Super Rod, I think that we're not crazy stringent on the time, but suggested time frame is at least around 2 minutes before, right? We're not doing any penalties per se. Okay. So for those of you who have competed in ICMAC tournaments, for example, they do penalization for that. We're not doing that. I believe the suggested time is 30 seconds to 2 minutes, at least for the forms. So like if they just go on there, go 15 seconds and have a complete brain fart, then you'll kind of know. So, but the timekeeper is at least, trying to keep time for that to make sure that, if they're over by a little bit, that's fine. But if they're like, unless they're not in the Tai Chi category, if they're just going like 5 minutes and they're just eating up tons and tons of time, then we kind of need to kind of wrangle it. Yes, sir.
Up to now, and a timekeeper so extra time.
Okay.
So that is for the new scorekeepers, that has to them.
Okay, that's fine. And then the scorekeeper is the one who's recording scores accurately from the ring judge. Now this one applies to both for sparring and also for the forms competition. And so they're calculated according to criteria. For example, in TICMAF, in Temp 1, what we've done in the past is top score and lowest score. In the case that we had 5 judges, we'd chop off the top score and the lowest score and then average. And then according to our rules this year, in a case that if in event of a tie, we tack back on the top score and lowest score, and we'd average that. Is that my understanding? Okay, because I think that's like what Steve kind of put on the little sheet. But in the event, for example, if we only have 3 scores, if we only have 3 judges per ring, then we would just average from that, and that's perfectly fine. The scorekeeping is pretty much just simple math. If we need to have a seminar on how to do basic averaging, then so be it. We'll do that.
By the way, I have had experience where, as judges, we noticed that a particular competitor who we rated highly, he wound up like in 3rd place. So wait a minute, how did he get 3rd place when he did perform so so we went over to the scorekeepers to double check their work. They were new scorekeepers, they were so nervous. That
Yeah. So I think that's why it's important
But those of us online really couldn't hear everything that Sifu Ron said at the end there. Can you-
he was to recap on what Steve Ron was saying is that there was a competitor one year that performed really well, and he only got third place, and so people were wondering why did that competitor score not as highly as he did, and it turned out that the scorekeeper there at that time was kind of new and really nervous. So that's why it's important for us as scorekeepers, and we'll make sure that we have the sheets out so that way that they write down what the score is, and then actually on the side write down their work.
My point is not everyone is mathematically.
Correct. Not everybody is mathematically capable.
Yeah.
Hey, Kevin, the slideshow isn't up, just so you know. We're still on the first page.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, it's yeah, you haven't gone on to page 4.
Huh.
You probably get in the presentation mode, huh?
Oh, here you go. Slide control. Let's see slide if you when you're in presentation. Oh. Let's slide when you are in presentation mode. So how do I get out of presentation mode?
Probably escape and then just
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay.
yeah, and it's slideshow.
Okay, can you guys see that now?
Yeah. Now,
Okay,
now we're
so-
on script.
All right, so I'll back up. So sorry about that, guys. So
Let me add a couple.
yes, sir.
So to Kevin and everybody, so regarding the scorekeeping, the head judge or the chief judge should double check with the scorekeepers that they know how to act. Okay, so you still, even though they've been trained, and we hope they know, that the chief judge should just kind of check on them, make sure they're okay. And then when it comes to writing the score, which is very important, if we have 2 scorekeepers, at the table, one can call out the scores, and
Yeah.
the other one just focuses on writing clearly and at the right spot and the right competitor. So they don't have to look up and down how they make mistakes. So one scorekeeper writes the scores clearly while the other one shouts out the scores. Now, one of the problems is some of these young kids, they don't know how to speak loudly. All right, so if you don't have one of those, talented kids that know how to speak in public, then the chief judge needs to be the one calling out the score, so that the competitors can hear and the audience can hear, but more importantly, the scorekeeper can hear each score.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of decide, the chief judge, when you're at the ring, if your scorekeepers are capable of doing that.
Or you can have the ring manager to help out.
Yeah.
Well, the ring man's gonna float around though.
So they're gonna be assigned one to.
Oh, but that'd be that primary. Okay, then yeah, there's a ring manager, yeah, so a ring manager could be requested to read the scores out too.
Yeah. One of the things that, for those who are not online, unfortunately, if you guys, for those, you see the rest of us here, that we have a bunch of notepads and pens. And one of the things that we kind of suggested is it's probably nice for actually even for the judges to kind of carry one of those. And I might even make like a little kind of like a judge's survival kit, they can have, that'll have pens and pads. So it's actually good for them for after they do that, just to kind of mark out what they did. And then that way, if we need to go back and say like, hey, this is what I actually scored that day or whatever, then it's very, very clear.
I think it's very important because if we don't have notepads or something for the judges and they forget, then they're just kind of guessing and winging it. That's kind of how you have unfair scores. And then the criteria, what the scoring range needs to be followed is people don't realize, let's say if you score improperly and you always tend to be the high scoring judge. Your score will automatically be dropped out every single time because you're the high scoring judge and you're not deviating. And then all of a sudden your score really has zero impact. Okay, no different than if you were the lowest scoring judge and you're constantly the lowest scoring judge for every competitor. Your low score is eliminated, dropping the high and low. So your judging really has zero impact on the outcome. So you're relying on the other 3 judges to make the decision. So this is why the judges need to be pretty much within a range and also judge accordingly, based on the kind of criteria of what the other judges do, but more importantly, what you decide. But if your score is skewed, if an inexperienced judge is skewing his score high or low, thinking, I like this guy I'm gonna score, I like this school or whatever, and I'm biased, and I'm always giving them a high score,
Mhm.
in reality, the score is gonna get dropped.
So,
So, but having notes really is the most important factor, you know, write down things that people that you wanna either, add scores or deduct points for. By the way, just one last thing here. I tend to do a declining balance, basically meaning that I will make notes on people who make mistakes. Balance or whatever, or drop a weapon or whatever, and then this way I'll make a note of that, and that's how I would deduct from a good score and start going back. So you don't wanna say plus this, minus this, plus this, and then try to come up with a score. You kind of start off with an average score based on your experience, whether you think it's, you know, on a high level or medium level, average or above average, and then I usually do a declining point notes on that student's total score at the end.
so to echo off of Sifu Benson here, one of the things that we're going to cover today also is a suggested judging scoring format. And the way I described it to Sifu Ron the other day is kind of like it's kind of like figure skating. For those of you who ever watch figure skating, there's certain kind of elements that they have to fulfill first that'll get them their basic score.
Right.
And then after that, then you kind of see like, okay, are there deductions from that? And so I put together this criteria because this is the criteria actually that I use to practice within my school here when we're doing tournament practice. And I'll say like, this is, and that way for evaluation, when they're done, I'll say like, this is why you got the score you did. This is why I didn't score you at 7.89 instead of a 7.85. And this is where I see your deduction. So we'll cover that. And again, it is just a suggestion. It's up to you guys if you want to use this format, but it's what I currently use in my school right now.
That's very good. That's the same concept, except you're formalizing.
Yeah.
That's good.
Okay, so let's go down. We already talked about this, so this is just to kind of govern. And this PowerPoint will be available to everybody. So let's go down to general rules for hand and weapon forms. Must capture the essence of classical martial arts movements, showcase traditional techniques, stances, footwork, and weapons. Emphasis is placed on the execution of technique, application of technique, balance, speed, power, solid stances, swift footwork, and focus. Straight from the rules that actually are posted on the website. So pretty much. Now I know that there is a big question like, well, what if I go up against some guy who's really flashy or a wushu guy or whatever? And then there was, so that's one of the reasons why we're gonna want to go over this suggested scoring format, because as much as like as traditional martial arts, I think most of everybody on here is from the traditional martial arts kind of background. I tell some of my students like, you can go toe to toe with a wushu kid, and we've done it before, like in Las Vegas, where like a bunch of wushu kids were trying to crash the traditional category. I'm like, fine, whatever, bring it on. And we're like, okay, we'll go toe to toe with you. We're gonna match you in speed and power and everything like that, and we'll take it to you. The discussion of whether we should bring wushu or versus traditional, that's not what we're here for today. But at least we're trying to at least give everybody the tools so that way they can give a very fair balance. So that way, if a wushu kid happens to crash your category and is doing a tons of backflips and whatever and spit and fire and whatever, there's only so amount of points that he's going to get for that. And I'll explain that as we go further.
That's no different from a northern style as to lift up the stump, to lift up the leg up in the air, or he drops down into a split, or he does a tornado kick from a hook stand, as opposed to a southern style.
Correct.
Just to sit right there in a very low stand and show real strong power and breathing and all that.
Yeah. So the criteria which I put together for suggestion helps at least kind of formalize that way there is a fair lens that everyone can view. All right, so let's go further down. So let's talk about levels of competition, and I want to be very clear about it so that way the judges know what they're expecting. So novice category are first year students. These are your young kids. They just signed up for Kung Fu a year. You're going to have a lot of brain farts. You're going to have a lot of anxiety. So don't go looking for Jet Li in the novice category. I want to be very clear on that, because what we're trying to do, at least hopefully I'm speaking correctly when I say this on behalf of TICNAP, is we're trying to foster interest and growth in the traditional martial arts federation in the world. So we want to build these kids confidence. So it's not going to be the best kung fu you see in the world. That's okay. We want to be forgiving about that. That being said, we don't want to like, hey, full score for everybody. We want them to also understand like, hey, this is what you're being judged on, and and later on it's like if they proceed to learn like, oh, this is why they got docked on, and this is what they can improve on. So that way they come back the next year, if they come back in a novice or intermediate, they do better and they know, okay, I know I'm constantly improving as a martial artist. Traditionally, we've always given the novice category for the kids one restart, right?
What's that again?
One restart. If they mess up, they like,
Yeah, it's free, they can start off.
yeah. So they can have one break, and I think that's only for the kids, not for the adults.
Yeah, I was gonna say that now the category applies to adults too.
Oh, so we are giving the adults one. Oh yeah, correct. Yes, that's also yes for your adults as well. Yeah. So yeah, let me back that up. So as Sifu Ron was saying, the novice category covers adults and kids. However, the restart, I'll retype this. The restart is only for the kids category. Okay, the adults, I mean, most adults are grown adults. They mess up. They're like,
Oh, come on.
I'll shake it off. All right. And their scoring is from 7.0 to 8.0. Next up is the intermediate category. These are your second years and above. Okay. This is an interesting category, especially for the kids, because this is where you're going to see a lot of growth, especially, and also even in your adults. This is where you're going to see people like they probably already maybe won a medal or two in beginner category. And then now we're really looking for, now we're going to really be a little more picky about, okay, did I see a really good horse stance? Did I really see some power? Novice category, we're happy some of the kids get through the entire form, without, hey, Steve Dunn. So,
Hey,
so yeah, so the intermediate category is more, it's going to be from 8.0 to 9.0. And so at this point, this is when you kind of see a little more serious deductions. Okay. Moving on.
I'm sorry.
Oh no, sorry. Moving on. We're hopefully you can see the slideshow that we're showing here. All right. Next one is, this is the big fish, advanced categories. These should be the top students of the school. All right. These are people that have clearly gotten like golds in intermediate category. These are the cream of the crop. Traditionally in the past, even for our grand champions, they have to compete in advanced category. And they have to compete in multiple categories, and then they accumulate their scores. And so their scoring range is from 9.0 to 10.0. So in this category, you will not see students forgetting their forms as much. Actually, you shouldn't see it at all. If they're taking their form out for a stroll on the first time and they're in advanced category, they really need to be thinking about their martial arts career. They should live and breathe that form already. We should see speed, we should see power and applications. This is usually third-year students and above. Me particularly in my school, I don't allow kids to go into advanced categories without consent from me. And I think that's a great, good guideline. I suggest to other schools too that some parents will just sign up for this, but this category I think is where we really showcase as an organization and as a tournament our cream of the crop, and this is what makes the highlight reel special.
Well, you can have an advanced student who come out and perform in public.
Correct.
And for me, like a 9.5 would be an average score.
Yeah.
So I would say, okay, 9.4. Some schools are like that.
Yeah.
So
I'm senior students, that's all they is.
yeah, so I'll address that because there are senior students and I'll even say it, that come from my school. They're like, I'm this top senior student. Why did I go to that tournament and completely get blasted away? And they didn't medal at all, and they were pissed. And part of that was, the need to have that come to Jesus meaning like doing forms in class and doing forms for demo and doing forms for tournament are two completely different animals. You got to bring a completely different level of A game, especially if you're in advanced category. Me personally, I'm a former grand champion of Temple 1 before. And I know the kind of level of competition you got to bring. And it's not just doing your form really, really well in class. You got to bring so much more elements to the ball game. And I think some of the senior students maybe forget that or don't realize that. Understanding
They
competition.
never taught that.
Yeah, they're never taught that. So I think, so the next category, or the next slide I'm going to cover is how to address that. And then other schools, I really encourage them to bring this criteria to them if you guys end up adopting it. So you can show like, hey guys, this is what judges are looking for. You know, this is not a secret. I'm not going to, you know, but this, you know, it's just like when people go to figure skating, the competitors know what the judges are looking for. They know what that criteria are, and they know they got to meet it. They either meet it or they don't. Okay, so okay, so this is the criteria which I put together that I use for my school. And this is the 5 main categories. So we kind of borrowed it from, let's use a figure skating example, that these 5 main things need to be met. Number 1, stance. 2, power. 3, focus. 4, application. And final is last one is showmanship. So the reason why I put this is what helps it make it a little more fair. If you have a bunch of people like Wushu guys dancing around, flipping, and doing all that place, like, oh man, this is so cool. But the stance, the power, the focus application wasn't there, then that's not doesn't do it for me, right? So for us as traditional martial artists, we need to see these elements like, hey, do I feel that the stance was correct? And I'll cover each category. And remember, this is just a suggestion. This is just a suggested format for all the judges and for TICMAP, it's up to them if they want to adopt it. But this is what we use in our school, at least so that way the kids understand what we're looking for.
For some of our traditional styles, there is not necessarily that emphasis on power, more fluidity.
Yeah, so it depends. So like, this is just a basic guideline. And so if some traditional ones have, a little more fluidity, then that's fine. Especially for example, like if say if we're going for the Tai Chi category, Tai Chi maybe might have a different criteria.
For example, man,
Yeah.
no emphasis on.
Yeah.
It's not there. But it's,
Yeah. So there's, I think this is just, like I said, it's just suggestive guidelines. So that way people can have some basic idea where to put them. So that way you're not like, oh my God, I saw awesome horse stances. I'm going to give a 9.8, then that's, you can't just win only on stances. Well, yes. Yes, so that's a very good question. So for those of you guys didn't hear, the question is, how are we weighting each criteria? Which is the next slide I'll go into. Thank you, perfect question. So, number 1, on stance. So these are things we're looking for. So, without jumping ahead, so the stance is what we're looking for. Our traditional Kung Fu stance is used, and we're looking for horse stance, cat stance, scissor stance, forward stance, etc. Cross stance, all these different ones. Are the stances low and stable? Now and the reason why I say this is not necessarily only limited to Southern. Northern forms will have great stances too. Especially us, since a lot of us are seafood here. Are the toes toe alignment correctly? Are they on balance? Is the competitor fall? Do they're holding a stance and then they suddenly you can see their weight shift. Okay. So again, these are just some kind of suggested things. These are more kind of prompting notes for us as judges to kind of think, okay, what are the kind of things could I technically be looking at? You can add more things to this, you can subtract more things. That's subjective mainly to each judge. But these are just some suggestions of things of what I particularly judge in our school. But any of the judges can add more things. Like for example, if you saw a really good eagle claw kick, the double kick that came up, and you saw that the way the form was correct, was it parallel to the ground? Did they put their toes correctly? Those would qualify under those kind of executions, right? It wouldn't be just like people mentioned, like for example, if you were judging one of your students, you wouldn't be saying like, hey, he jumped up high, he kicked his legs, and therefore, no, there's very strict criteria, right?
Down the line with balance.
Correct, exactly. So, I think each system out there definitely has criteria for that going on. Power. Again, does each punch look powerful? Does each kick generate power? Is there a snap there? And this is a big one too. And I know that, forgive me, there's the 1 year where we combined up with the karate tournament, and boy, was it a noisy tournament, the karate side. Or even when we were in Las Vegas, all the wushu guys, they were like, yeah, you know, screaming all the place. And screaming does not equal power, believe me. I'm sure you guys all know. Okay. Yeah, that was just the introduction. Yeah, you know, and then so you know, sometimes we just roll our eyes, whatever. But you know, so those things, you know, you guys as experienced judges or experienced Sifus out there, you guys know what you're looking for. You see a guy, boom, throw a punch, like, hey, that kid's got power, right? Or that you see that kick, boom, is it generated? Does it have that snap, right? Same with the weapon. Are they just flinging the weapon around, or does it look like that weapon is really great? Like I can't stop talking about was it Sifu Manuel Marquez's student last year that had the monk spade, and boy, it generated a lot of power. And I know that thing is heavy, but he won that category. And I was like, you know, I told him like your Sifu, your student did so well because he was able to generate power and made it move. And simple, and this is the other one too, simple speed for weapons. And I think some of us, at least as traditional, if we see just the weapon just being flung around quickly, you know, does not equate into power. Like we should be able to see that the weapon is doing what it's supposed to be doing. Again, these are just suggestions. So, next one is focus. And is the competitor just doing the form like they're doing it in class, or they're really focused in the moment? And the way I teach my students, and you guys, judges, you can see from the minute their name is called up, do they say next competitor, Kevin Leung? Do they get up and kind of like dragging? I don't know if you guys can see there. They're just kind of dragging their feet over, or they just finished talking with the competitor next to them about Pokemon cards. You know, these are things that I always tell my students. Judges are absolutely watching. They're looking to see how your demeanor is. Are you ready for that tournament? So I like to share a story. My son Nicholas, who I know some of you may or may not know, his very first tournament that he went to when he was 6 years old was at Pasadena at the ICMAC. Went there, did the tournament, went home with nothing. And he was crying, he was bawling, and you know, I told him, like, I said, where was your concentration before you went to go on this form? And he was doing that. He was out talking about Pokemon cards with one other kid. And I said, if that is where your discussion is, then you got the score that you got. And that absolutely shows. But I mean, so I'm not saying that us as judges need to be babysitting kids and kind of like eyeballing, you know, who's behaving themselves and sitting down. But you know, we want to see, like, are they just going through the movements? Are they focused on their movements? Are their eyes, like we catch this a lot with the younger kids. Are their eyes looking at the ground, or they're looking up in the sky, looking like they're trying to remember what the next move is? You know, are they focused on the weapons, what they're doing? For example, are they just kind of flinging their sword in the air and they're not mindful of where their weapon is going? Is there intent behind the movement? And so some people, like, we'll see, like, you know, you'll see really great competitors, like when they thrust forward or they kick, their eyes will be looking directly forward, either at a judge or in a certain corner. You'll see that intense focus. Next one, applications. So this one is, I think, is also very important, and I also teach my kids too, is do the punches look like will they actually hit the intended target? So they're like, yeah, hitting, and then their punch is way off to the side and they're facing the front. It doesn't make any sense, right? So like, or they put the block like, yeah, like that. Does it look like the block is doing what it looks like? You know, we're gonna run through our head. Would that really stop a blow, right? Same with the weapons. Do the weapons look like they would actually slice or hit or block? You know, are the hand techniques visible? I always tell my kids, the Sifus who are judging you, they should be able to tell if you know what you're doing. You should be able to take that form and use it out on the street and be able to protect yourself. If you don't look like you know what you're doing, then you know that's what in terms of application. And of course, this is a big one too, and I've caught a couple of times. Is the weapon facing the correct direction? Some people would end a broadsword form, and then the sharp part of the blade is facing them when they're finished, right? You're like, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense, right? And it happens. It happens. Absolutely happens. Okay, and then the last one is showmanship. So this one, the reason why I made this the last criteria is this is when we see like, do they have that wow X factor, right? Do they, and I'm saying like this, I wanted to make this one partial category so that way either someone went and just did a bunch of backflips and cartwheels and things like that, or had this weapon that flung around. Like, there was like some of the Shaolin kids that did their steel chain whips, right? It's like makes a lot of noise. People are like, wow, 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 wow. But then I'm like, I'm watching their toes and like their feet are completely off. If that weapon ever got away from them, it's done. So, are we seeing those things? So showmanship should be the final one. This is when you can grade like, okay, did they have intensity? Did they throw a little yell in there? Did they kind of throw some intense look at the judge? Things like that. Okay. Do we see speed? Do we see the hands snap? You can hear the uniform. Do we hear that snap from the legs? Do the weapons shake? For example, it's not just wushu pulls. You see a lot of other traditional, like when they hit down that pole, the poles shake and display that kind of power. And then this is also for fluid. Like if we saw a more soft one, did it look like it was flowing very well? If they're doing a crane technique or a snake technique, something like that, did it move so well? And then, of course, at the end, if there's strong facial expression within reason, if they're just like, obviously that's maybe a little bit much.
There's some kids, they have difficulty expressing them.
And I think that's one of the great reasons why we're here at Sifu, to help them get over that. Believe me, we have a lot of kids who are they're just shy, or they just haven't got over that hump. I don't know if some of you guys know, like, so I have some students who are autistic, and I know that that's a big hump for them to get over, even just to get them into class and be comfortable. And one of my students who graduated already, he's out in college, I was very, very proud of, because he came out of his shell. And before, when he first came, he didn't want to talk to anybody. He didn't want to. You couldn't even get him on the floor just to do his form in front of you. And then him going to 10th one, he really just brought him out of his shell. And so I think for us to provide that avenue, I think it's important.
Especially got that stuff.
Yes, he went nuts. He was great. So okay, so with all these three criteria, how do we weight? And so this is the suggestion which I talked about. So the scores that we talked about from the different categories are 7.5, 8.5, 9.5. That's for beginner, intermediate, advanced, right? Each fulfilling category would technically warrant a 1/10 of a point. So a perfect stance would give you, if you started at 7.5. So the way I thought about it is, if you start at 7.5, that's a dead regular score. You got through the form, you didn't have any brain farts. You got a 7.5. Now, if you got good stance, that's criteria 1. I saw a good horse stance, I saw good whatever. Okay, I'll bump you to a 7.6. Or if I saw a good display of power, boom, got you to a 7.7, and so forth. So each category would technically give you that 1/10 of the point. Now, if the kid, for example, gives you like, you know what, I saw a good horse stance, but that cat stance just looked really, really crappy, okay, then you maybe give him a 7.57 on that category. But maybe his power was just awesome, right? Or maybe his showmanship was really awesome. So just giving you basically allowing you to know that in each category you would score only a 1/10 of a point. Does that make sense? So that way it's not like if some kid just has all these backflips, he's not mopping up all of his full score right away. He's got to fulfill those categories.
So starting at 7.5 being the minimum
Correct.
score, what would be the very top score?
So in that category, 8.0.
8.0, so you only have 5 points to work with.
Technically, yes. That's if you get through the form without any problems. If you have, now, the next slide we're going to talk about is in terms of like deductions. I mean, if you have a just completely disastrous day, we have to take some deductions, and sometimes that will drop you below, a 7.5, 7.4, something like that. That also being said, because based off of our chopping category, it's we also have to think about like if you score like hey, this guy just tanked 7.3, and if it gets chopped up anyway, then is the kid truly, the student really learning that lesson, like, hey, this is what I got deducted on. So if we kind of mark it at this, then you'll kind of know, oh, this is what the judges were looking for, and this is what I was deficient in. Okay, so moving on. So deductions. So, forgetting the form, for example, would be half a point. Okay, beginners have one restart with no penalty. This is, I think this is actually off the rules from this year. Stepping out of bounds also was, I believe, also a half point deduction. And again, I'll use my son as an example. There was one year, his first year actually at Temp 1, and he did really, really, really well. But he did not look at where the center of the ring was, and he stepped out of bounds. He got second place. And I said, well, you scored really well, but I know they had to take off points because you stepped out of bounds. So it happens. But and again, according to the rules, accidental contact the weapon floor is half a point deduction, but a full-on drop would be a disqualification. Yeah, we're taking that up because I think we talked about that. So disregard the form should be 30 minutes and to 2 minutes. So disregard that, guys.
Oh, no, accidental contact?
Yes,
The floor?
that's
We're not forgetting that, right?
that's in the rules. I have 0.5 deduction, and then if they have a full-on drop, it's a DQ.
So accidental contact, what does that mean?
So if like
Weapon dropped on the floor?
yeah, it's so if for example they're using their staff and they're just doing a technique and
Yeah.
it's just like a brush. But if it's a full-on, then
But
they
the whole reason for the negative scoring is you want to make sure there's no marking on the floor.
correct. So that's why, like, for example, if they hit it twice and like one accidental, maybe give them half a point deduction. But if they're hitting it twice or they're clearly not trying to not hit it, because this rule about non floor contact has been around for a while, like 5-6 years, forever. We started doing Temp 1, right? So most of our competitors understand that already. But and this is straight off the rule sheet. That's
May I ask a question on that?
Sure.
Sifu Daryl. So a couple of forms start with a staff where the bottom of the staff would be on the floor. I've been telling the kids to just hold it up or put it on their foot or something like that. Does it matter? It's not an accident, but is that permitted where if the set starts with the bottom of the staff on the floor just at the beginning, they know not to hit the floor, touch the floor with anything throughout the set, but to start it, does that matter? Or is that a deduction?
That's still technically a deduction, and so
Okay, all right.
so in our system, like we've actually adjusted our form. Huh? But we've adjusted our forms.
Yeah. No, in East LA, we couldn't hit the floor at all. Right, hit it, or even accidental, we were trying to avoid. So that's when the rule came up saying. Yeah. So at East LA, they were very strict about that. That's big one, your contact. When we went to Arcadia, they were less concerned about that.
But it doesn't mean we shouldn't.
Right, but we were carrying the rule over.
Yeah.
And then we got to the point where we could say, you can start with resting on it.
Yeah.
So now we're vague, okay?
So-
So you can't start and some people stamp their weapon,
So I'll give you an example. Like one of our forms is our spear form, and it starts out quiet, and that obviously can't. If it starts as a wrestling, I guess that's it's okay. But just if you like, for example, like if it's a form you have it here and then you pick it up and then that's fine.
That's fine.
But just keep in mind the other auxiliary ring last year was chopped to hell. Because that even though people were saying like, oh, don't hit anything, people just tore that floor up to hell. It was bad. So
Did it get disqualified or nothing?
I wasn't in the ring, but when I walked over, like it was Scuff City. So because I know that, and also Sifu Fenton is part of that school district. We want to respect his territory and his relationship there. I would say like, if the contact is just minimal, just to kind of starting, that's okay. But if you start sliding on the ground and really impacting that, if you haven't made the adjustment, at least to kind of protect the floor, then that's.
Well, maybe we should not do, because people sometimes do accidentally, even though
They'll
it's
just-
rest.
Yeah,
They don't know how to step without picking it up. My students do that in my school all the time. They're like stepping in and they slide it on the floor.
Yeah.
They're not supposed to.
Yeah.
And so even if you start off with the tip of your spear touching on the floor, you're supposed to pick it up.
Yeah.
A lot of times people take a slight shift forward and break it.
Yeah, exactly. And it
So
just,
it's not necessarily purposeful, it's just that they're not at that level of control.
Right.
Of the control.
people yelling, yeah.
So if they drop the weapon, then.
That's a DQ.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I've seen that at Temp One before. This is back when we were in Chinatown. There's one kid who's full on, he dropped his spear, and he didn't get doctored and all that.
That should be disqualified.
Yeah, that's usually a DQ.
Automatic,
That's usually a
because
DQ.
you're in battle with the drop the weapon.
Yeah. So, I know for us that we don't necessarily do like any sort of weapon checks, like ICMAC, but, you know, one of the things that we used to do was, you know, put their sword in, does it bend or does it not bend?
We not still do that, especially with doing position.
I think we should, but that's,
It's not big enough.
I defer to the,
Report on that one.
Could be written.
Yeah, it could be
You wouldn't want
written.
somebody doing it form.
yeah,
Well, no, the whole thing is you don't want any weapon becoming disengaged at
Yeah.
all. So a part falls off and hits somebody.
Correct.
else.
and I'll be honest with you, like right now, there are a lot of cheap kung fu weapons floating around because of what the weapons that like, you know, mainland China's cranking out, and they're making them because it's popular, so they're cranking out these cheap weapons, and they fall apart. You know, like the Dragon Ball swords that were made back when I first started, compared to the Dragon Ball swords that are now coming out, garbage. And so it's dangerous. You're gonna have stuff flying, and so we have to be mindful of that. Absolutely. So, any questions so far on some of these? Thank you so much for these questions. Any other questions from the judges right now? The
I
judges?
have a question.
Yes, sir.
With the observations that the judges have in regards to the 5 categories, has there been a thought of sending that information to the people prior to the hearing?
Again, it's up to TICMAP and the tournament directors if you guys want to adopt that. I'm just telling, like, this is what I make my students.
Could you repeat the question?
So he was asking like the criteria, which I kind of presented today as an example. He's asking if we could send that out to the Sifus beforehand. And I said, like, absolutely, you know, if Traditional Chinese Martial Arts Federation wants to adopt it, or if the tournament wants to adopt it, they're more than welcome to. You know, for me, this is the criteria which I train my students on, but it's, you know, it's up, I'll defer to the board in terms of.
Guys here.
Well, it seems I'll just add,
Guys here.
Sorry, you guys are, Sifu Daryl, go ahead and say that. What was your question?
I said the criteria seems reasonable
Here.
enough. It seems, since it's presented in a judging workshop, it's one or two things. It's either recommendation or guidance. So if we all accept it as guidance, you know, the center judge can make those final decisions as necessary. But I mean, it's good to have guidance that everybody's following the same language of the guidance.
Yeah, and my intention is to kind of print out a little, like, you know, laminate little cheat sheet that judges can have on the day, so that way if you need to, like, oh, well, what did Kevin say? Oh, okay, this is what, so you can have something to kind of look at real quick. And we're gonna look at some stuff together today too. That's part of the. I wish you guys were here so I could throw more candy. Yeah.
I have a question. If we make a decision on whether it's okay to like start out with the weapon on the ground?
So I think the general consensus was that we were trying our best to not start with it on the ground.
No.
Or no?
You're only placing it right there. You're not going like this. You just placing it right there.
So
I mean, it could be the guando, it could be a staff, it could be whatever. You just place it right there.
so
Why would you
My-
get disqualified?
well,
That's
or at least
disqualified.
just like a deduction.
For the deduction, why would you do deduction?
I think it's vague, we put it on and we could say if they act on tap or not. If you say no, then it's clearly no.
Mhm.
But we put it down, some people put it down when they finish their form, you know, because they're all pumped up. You know, the other-
Yeah, it absolutely happens.
Right.
And
So that can, you know, dig from floor.
yeah, me personally, I think it'd be best if you just universally say, you know what, just please, no force contact. And you can place a weapon on your toe just as easily, which is what I tell all my kids. Once you're done, just put it on your toe. And you can end the form the way this way, and because ultimately it costs a lot of money. I know how much for a basketball court. You got to resurface that basketball
I
court.
think we should say no touch the floor at all, because even if you just wreck and start, a lot of people, have funny mannerisms that they can't break.
Yeah, I mean, I
When
haven't
I was
heard any.
younger, we used to, I wasn't taught that, but everybody started doing it. I had fear. Just before I stopped, I was hanging on the floor and then fought, right?
Yeah,
So it basically attracts everybody's attention. I go, it's up my fear. But I wasn't taught that, but it was something that in the tournament people started doing, and then I had to do it with everybody else.
yeah. Because, and I'll be honest with you, like, my concern is that we have this great location. I don't want us to. be
Yeah, so I
homeless
think
next
we
year.
should take away, even if they start, they just hold it up.
Yeah, just please
Or put on the foot.
my students have made the adjustment because we have a lot of parts of our forms that are hitting the floor. And I said, okay, just make the adjustment,
But even like I said, my students who start on the floor, but when they take that first step in, they do slide on the
Yeah.
floor, even though I tell them no. They
Yeah.
Pick it up. So it's just a lack of overall training and focus.
Going back to the stepping out of bounds, it's up to the competitor to request for extra space.
Correct, yes. So this is mainly for the ring. So for example, our rings are about 20 by 20, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they're pretty big. And so you traditionally what we've done is people, if they start their form, they ask for a space, but still it should still operate within that main ring. If they get out of the ring or the weapon really excessively gets out of the ring, it's a bit much, because again, it goes back to the discipline of the practitioner. You should be able to adjust. I mean, we've had students before that, especially last year, because our rings got chopped down so small, they made the adjustment.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was.
But in actual usage, we know forms take you a certain way, but there's nothing wrong with stepping back.
Yeah.
Doing the same technique. You can step into a thrust, you can step back. to a
Yeah,
thrust,
we make the
right?
adjustments.
So the students need to be able to adjust, stay within the ring.
Yes, sir.
Competitors start anywhere on.
Correct. They just have to indicate. So now other tournaments, for example, they actually give deductions if you're outside of the quadrant from where you started. I don't think we're that tournament or set that way, but I'll be honest with you, like most of our competitors, as they grow, for example, if this is their first one, you want to get them ready for future competitions to take it on the road, to go to Phoenix National, or go to other things. And so if they kind of get that habit of like, you start here, you stop here, we build that good habit, they can take it on the road. They can go up to, was it Golden Tiger or up north? The one up in, San Jose. Yeah. Iroquois tournament. Yeah, so they can take their routine, go to another tournament without major reboot or adjustment.
I have a couple of follow-up
Yes.
questions.
Yes.
So, multiple accidental contacts after point.
I mean, eventually they're gonna run out of points. If you hit it once, okay.
I think it once, there's a point, second time, you could be disqualified.
Yeah,
You could be disqualified.
yeah. So I think that's when you start powwowing. So the head judge, for example, if after they perform, that's when scorers, judges will maybe say, head judge, can we have a quick powwow? And we'll pull together to, was there blatant disregard for the no touch, or was it just like, maybe once or twice? And then if it was like, you know what, if the kid was like, screw it, I'm just gonna do my thing, and they're not abiding by it.
It should be one like beginners forget, and then, they can start all over.
Yeah,
For weapons, we all know the importance of weapons safety, but also using the weapon properly.
yeah,
Right, so they need to understand like a firearm, there are things you gotta do with a firearm, you got things you gotta do when you learn from the weapon.
Yeah.
So one of those things is we all know, you don't hit the floor when you're not supposed to hit the floor, and there are moves that you are hitting the floor.
Right.
But there should be no accidental hit.
yeah. So yeah, I think like a one-time.
Or the blade on your arm, or a.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the half point for the first time, if it's clearly accidental, that's okay. We're getting the second, third time, then we really need to think about, okay, all right, that's what the rules are. And if you need to talk to the Sifu or talk to the kid, you say like, hey, this is a basketball court, and they cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. right?
So, yeah, that is all, it's like, the students are usually sitting by the court, or right by the side, you let them on the floor to start with,
Mhm.
and then you call them in the middle and walk them to the drink.
Mhm.
So during that time, if they kind of drag the staff or something on the floor.
Yeah, that's what you take into consideration. So that's, goes back to the, when we talk about focus, when we talk about one criteria. If you see that kid, you got a sword form coming up, right? And he's just been kind of like, I was sitting aside, kind of dragging it in, then, like, look, you can be like, hey, man, even though you haven't started your form, you're clearly disregarding the ground, then,
Well, these are all,
disregarding.
these are all the things that unfortunately each sequel of their schools need to still be, well, awareness with their own students. It's a hard thing for us, especially if they're not in the ring, if they're on the sideline.
And that's why,
practicing on their own.
doing, having the beforehand, as you discussed, the kids now.
Yeah.
To have those recommendations and the guidelines. There is no.
Yeah.
At the moment, there's certainly someone's gonna come up, some parent or some teacher is gonna come up to the judges and challenge.
Yeah.
Whether it's a thing, so if it's known beforehand, then no one can do it.
Yeah.
How do you want to score some of our weapons, we have the flowers.
Mhm.
So when they accidentally cut their leg, I'm doing a flower,
So
you're gonna get a half
so,
point.
yeah, so self-injury, that's also part of ICMAC rules. Self-injury also usually does it a half point. And if you're full on bleeding, that's usually,
Right, if it's twice, if you cut yourself twice, you qualify, or is that a judge's decision?
I think that's usually does. Like if you see visible blood drawn, and yeah, it's happened before even in our school. I won't say any names, but there's people that have done a short form and they cut themselves while they're doing it. I'm like, okay, buddy, you should be more careful. So yeah, so we definitely have to be careful. So right now it's about 2:10. We've been going for about an hour. Does anyone need like a little quick break before we kind of break off into some of the other sessions? People online, you guys need a breather, bathroom break? Bathroom break. Okay, so what? So, I'm sorry? Oh, right here. Okay, so Sifus and judges, we're gonna take a short, like 5-minute bathroom break, and then we'll go into our other student session here to go over the other categories, which, like, for example, particularly sparring, which is what we want to talk about next. Yeah, they're both open. They're both open. The Zoom will still stay active.
No danger.
Yes, so. I know, I did, I just didn't do my stuff.
Yeah, they're up.
Right,
They don't have to.
You guys at your own risk. You know, like, man, why you never yeah, Jonathan,
Wait.
good thing is home, it's so crowded, small range.
If you want to practice, we saw that. Some people practice this, but
Those actually will be on the.
other people.
First of all, competition.
If they want to use it.
So in the very beginning, like those, when you announce the category, they're like, okay.
That's what
So,
it's
yeah, they're gonna have a roll call first.
We will follow.
And judge first, and like, hey, the guys, that one that I hear it,
I can do it.
talking here about, even announce their entire form.
How do you know
Come
it's
in,
a technique?
which we do, and then when we're done, right again, give out awards. Correct, you should, as head judge, you should. However, for the judging for sport, you don't have any. You don't want to, you don't just find.
I got a bad news. I think I live my door. And,
And he's on the chair.
I think so. I told him I'm in it. He hasn't responded. Yeah. And they were, having these speaker from somewhere there.
I wanted to get my logo.
Really? No, I didn't.
I got some sitting there.
Oh, cool. Good, good.
He's all happy.
I was all looking forward to it. I was there the other day. Yeah. Yeah, I went to that and I looked at the car, it was rough, looked at the house, right there.
I didn't see you until like 26. So yeah,
Silly. No, man. I
are you
regret.
ready or?
Yeah.
Next week, right?
Doing one basic form and one.
Are you working together
I'll go to your.
for your?
Oh, yeah, maybe. Greece.
Oh.
Maybe I'll go to UK.
Really?
Right, so go here a little bit.
Yeah.
But still right now, it's so expensive to go on. That way Puerto Rico.
That's all I want.
Don't you already have one?
Yeah, we have.
You, man.
Yeah. So they're gonna stop.
That was, at home that me. But, do you remember where? What city?
So we're gonna
Would it be?
open things up a little bit.
Bayamon?
Yeah.
Have you
There's
been
two,
up there?
there's two, I've never been,
Love it.
there's two, I heard it, because I'm from the East Coast,
You're
Puerto Rican.
You're gonna
I
love
think
it.
Puerto Rican before, I think, grew up on it.
So what?
Puerto Rican, right?
Bigger? Oh. But see, I grew up with them. Well, I don't have that.
Yeah.
I don't have that popular one. It's pretty much stuck in the same. Just a second, just a second. You're fine. Yeah, just a little, just a little. Like we have like a gentleman.
Yeah, you know what?
Okay, so if you see us moving some furniture around, you'll hopefully see. And so the perspective I'm gonna have here is basically the perspective of the center judge. So center judge will usually be sitting straight here, and we'll have judges all around. So we'll kind of set it up. The four corner judges. So this is four corner judging format. Okay, hopefully everyone's back in the bathroom. I think we're missing a couple. We'll just wait, give it another 2 seconds.
So something you'll stop by and see a briefing, you know, like talk about.
No problem.
Oh, you did.
No problem. No problem. All right, who are we still waiting for? I see Daryl's here, Rosa's here, Fred Lee's there. I think I lost Stuart. Let me see. Sifu Bill is, are you still here? Hopefully. Nope, Russ is there.
There you go.
Oh, Stuart's there. Okay. All right, good. Everyone's there. Perfect.
Hey, good news, though.
All right, hopefully everyone can see us. All right, Sifu, give me a thumbs up. Let me know that you're ready to go. Blue's good to go. Sifu Fred Lee's good to go. Rose is ready to go. Sifu Kance, Sifu Bill, Sifu Don, Russ, Sifu Daryl, you're good to go. All right. All right. So first, I want to go over the formatting for how people are going to answer into their form. I think if we keep this uniform, then people can kind of go through, they should be able to plow through their forms and we should have a very efficient ring. So traditionally kids or informers will be sitting on the sidelines, either to the left or the right or on the outside border, depending on how many competitors they have of the ring. Their feet should not intrude in on the ring, nor should their weapons. This is as us as head judges or other side judges, we should be paying attention to. The minute this starts going into there, then obviously that's a distraction, right? So once they're called their name, so if Sifu or Landis says, okay, next competitor, Kevin Leung, then I'm going to walk from the outside, walking in, bow before entry, step in the center, bow, and once he puts his hands up to salute to start, technically that's when the timer starts. Okay, so he does his form, then his final salute. Once he's done, what I teach my kids, just stand at ease and wait for your score. Once they're standing at ease, you'll hear the timer, the scorekeeper go, judges score, and then you'll hear it around the room. And you'll hear 7.56, 7.77, 7.89, 7.72, and then your final head judge front, 7.88, whatever. And they're going to wait. Scorekeeper will now be tabulating everything. They're going to drop what score they need to do, give whatever kind of score. They say final score 7.72. The student should salute and back up. And that's up, and then it's down. That's the format that we should run.
No, all the students, not all the competitors do not know that. They come out like this.
Yeah.
So someone has to instruct them.
So during usually a lot of judges in the very beginning, once they do roll call, the head judge will come to the front and say, all competitors for TSF4, please give me a straight line right here. He'll address everybody. Says, okay, guys, this is what we're going to do. You're going to enter in here. You're going to bow. You don't need to you don't need to announce your form. You're going to come in here, bow out, stand at ease until you get your final score, back out and sit back down. And then after that, okay, guys, good luck. The head judge, chief judge. Yeah, so that way, I think this helps also establish that authority that chief judge is, hey, you know, I'm up here, and what I say goes. The thing that we can potentially encounter is it happens a lot, and I guess I'll defer to the chief judges how you want to handle this, or whether we're going to put deductions or whether we put a disqualification. If you have disruptive students on the side, say that one school is on the side, and their kids are just like blah 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 blah, talking, whatever, being disrespectful in the form, you can absolutely have that be a future deduction, or if it becomes a continuous problem, you can stop. You know, if you need to, you can stop, bring over the sequence, and you know what, you know,
Oh, you have stuff that's like going over the trees, that's got.
Yeah,
Good morning.
yeah, yeah, at least the warning's like, hey, I'll give you guys one warning. Second warning, it's done. Same also with parents. Some parents will be like, what do you mean you got a 7.0? Like, are you out of your mind? And we as judges need to just hold the line. That's what it is. If you have a problem, you can take it over to the head judge's table over there, and you can take up that problem, and they can go and fight over there. Our job is to keep these rings moving. After we've done the score, send it out. As head judges, send it over to your scorekeeper. We'll send to the runner to the judge table, entering the scores, and that's it. Done and done. After what? Yes.
So, let's say you follow a timeline, or you done something like, and nobody else needs it, right? Of course, we know.
So if you see it and it's becoming a problem, I would say stop for a second, pull a judges meeting quick, decide, and say like, hey, head judge, like, hey guys, this is becoming a problem. And would you like to address it? Because the head judge is busy focusing on something else, and you as a timeline judge, in this case, it's kind of like being really disruptive. Hopefully all the competitors will understand that you have to be respectful. But if it comes to problems, pull the judges together real quick, make a quick message like, hey guys, just remind everybody, please, when you're on the side, please be respectful. You be seated, crisscross, Indian style, and not disrupting anything. Don't be playing with your weapons. This is everyone's final. I mean, they're kids. We understand. And it's hard to make kids sit for 30
All
seconds.
of your comments are fewer on kids.
Yeah,
You know what, we're on the.
exactly, right. All right. Finally, at the end, when all scores are tabulated, judges are going to line up here. So if I'm sorry to show my butt, main judge will be here. All the judges will be standing next to them, and then the scorekeeper will walk up. We'll have all the competitors line up here, and then we sing in third place, blah blah blah. In second place, blah blah blah. In first place, blah blah blah. Okay, clap, 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 and then main judge will say, okay, ready to come up, final salute. All competitors, regardless of their placing, will judge, and then they will, first person will walk this way. Everyone will come and shake all the judges' hands, shake, 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 and that's it. No time for photos, just kind of move.
By the way, the medals will be up to the head judge to decide. It was those that was money that did not be,
Yes. Correct. So that's one of the things. So for example, like when I was last year, I said, Seafood Redmond was in my ring. I said, Seafood Redmond, you're going to be giving first place. And so each judge up here, the main judge will be, of course, announce, saying whatever. But the judges next to you, you should have 4 ideas. They'll say like, okay, they'll go up and award. Okay. Any questions on that format? Sure.
Last year we had all the judges sitting in a row. This year we're going around.
Traditionally, especially for ICMC, it's around. So that makes no last.
I have personal reasons for having everyone just.
Yeah, people, like, what do you do?
No, that's true. Yeah, but I learned that in churches where I was always sitting in the corner, great. I never got a chance to meet that judge and that judge and that judge. For me, it was all about building friendship. So I wanted them to together so they would meet each other, maybe talk to each other,
So you want all the judges up front this year? You want all the judges up front this year?
That's what I do normally, that's what I do.
Okay. Either way is fine. Either way is fine. I think the corner judge especially is more important for fights. For the tournament. Yeah. But the competitors should be directing their attention towards front angles when they're doing that for. So that's part of the thing. Okay. Any other questions about this? I mean, yes, sir.
I couldn't hear what happens after the second disruption.
So after second infraction, so by that time, like, you probably were talking about like a disqualification.
Okay.
Yeah. So if the kid, if the student or, and it could be adults too, if they're being disruptive on the side, okay, we'll give you a fun one. by second time, like, you know what? Sorry, we're gonna disqualify you. You know, that's on you. I mean, we're all there. Most of us are all traditional martial artists. You know, we've been trained to do better, and we should be respectful regardless of what our score. You know, and some competitors, and I've seen it before, they'll do this. Judges score 7.6, 7.6, 7.4. Really, dude? 7.78. Final score 7.6. You know, and if that's a problem, then you know you need to talk to the team. Excuse me. And you know, as fellow instructors, we need to correct that behavior. I think. So you say, excuse me, young man, can you please stand at attention? You know, I think that's perfectly fair for us to say, like, you know, and we can address that when you're first judges me, when you're first addressing your students, your competitors, like say, hey guys, you know, be respectful to the judges, be respectful to the head judge. So one of the things that I saw during that karate tournament was like black belts were arguing with center judge, and I was like, what the freak, man? Like, are you a black belt or not? Like, where's your sensei? Where do they teach you this nonsense? You know, and so we as traditional Chinese martial arts should definitely not accept that at all. So, but if post scoring, if that comes to be a thing, you can say like, excuse me, young man, and you know, we'll address it with their speaker or whatever, you know, and we'll talk to them. You know. Any other questions? A very good
Thank you
question.
for clarification.
Okay.
Thank you for clarification.
Any other questions? Okay. So forms is pretty straightforward. You know, it's and hopefully with some of the guidelines, again, it's suggested, but that'll help aid you. So that way you're like, oh man, that was wow. And then you give a really great score, and then you see another kid like, oh man, but he was great too, but I already gave away all my points to some guy who I thought was first place, right? And then man, I'm running out of room. I can't give an 8.12 if he's in a 7.0 to 8.0 category, right? So that's why if you have certain criteria that are maxed out, just like figure skating, then you'll know that, okay, well, the showmanship is great. I can only give him a full 1/10 point in that category. Now I got to start looking for other things. That'll kind of help guide your judging, make it a little bit easier, and should make it more universal. Okay.
I remember you're supposed to be on that 10 contributors on the
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah. And that's why I think that having the notepads is okay, so you can keep notes. It's like, hey, you know, I like, you know, this is what I saw this one. However, you should not be changing your scores after, because we'll know. So if you're a judge, like, you know, well, okay, I'm going to give him a 7.6 instead. Well, you've already announced it already. Okay. So whatever you put on that whiteboard is what's committed to paper. And, you know, and parents in these days, the age of cell phones, they're recording and they're fighting those scores. They'll be like, hey, wait a minute, you gave him a 7 point whatever.
On that note, speaking that note, let's say you have category of second competitors. What will we do in that situation? Will we split that? You all play together? Do we do 3 and 3? You know, how will we break up a large group?
10 in a category is actually a pretty normal category size. That's pretty fair. If it gets like 15 or 20, then that's normal. Then you gotta break it up. I would say like if you're gonna break up 12, 6 and 6 is a pretty fair category. You know, the reality is, yeah, someone's gonna go home with nothing. But at least now you have 3 people that can go place, 3 people who just need to kind of do a little work. Whereas if you have 10 or 12 and you're only 3 on top, the people down below are like, well, I don't know what wrong, you know. So I think our goal is also to help some of these martial artists grow. And so if the category is a little smaller, but it really gets also up to like how many medals you have.
Well, would that be splitting up that group? Would that be the main judge's responsibility to split them up? No, so I mean, so if you say one division, one of the 10.
Yeah, the week before we should already look at it. And so, you know, we should be able to tell the week before that, hey, we're already filled up on this 30 people in this beginner category. A lot of these beginner categories have a lot of kids, right? So we need to chop them up, we need to bring them up to girls or make, okay. Ollie, or?
So
Sure.
for the benefits of those of us online, I think what I was listening to was a conversation about if a particular category gets too full, what you're going to split it in half.
Correct. Correct.
And so what I thought I heard was that we probably will get a handle on that a week before, maybe.
Correct. That is correct, sir. Yes.
Thank you.
And ultimately, you know, these tournaments are designed to help foster, you know, dedication and interest in Chinese martial arts. And one of the easiest thing to do is let people compete and let them do well and let them go home with feeling of accomplishment. When kids walk away from parents, and I'm not trying to just only use kids, but if people go home with nothing, and especially if it's, and I know people, they already know what a participation medal is, but if they go home with nothing and they, you know, and they have no clue why they got it, then, you know, it's very disheartening. It's crushing. And we want to help build the interest of these kids for many years to come. Hey, Frank. Thank you for joining us. All right, Frank, I recorded this session, so all of our latecomers will be able to replay this again, so don't worry, okay, guys? All right, any questions on the scoring or for the forms?
Of course, you're gonna have a division where you only have one or two people.
Correct. Yeah, and in event of you have one or two competitors, so Cecil Ron gave up a very good point. Sometimes you'll have a category that has only one competitor or one or two competitors. You know, we can combine what we can combine, but at the same time, you should also judge them accordingly. You know, it's, you know, you're gonna send a clear message like, hey, if you're the only person in there, but I'm only gonna give you a 7.7, and this is my criteria. You know, it's something to take home and think about as well.
But he still gets the first color.
Yeah, unfortunately, he doesn't get it.
So he's gonna come back next year.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and it's up to us as tournament organizers also to kind of build up these categories. And I'm sure you guys notice, especially in your school, you know, especially the ones who have kids, you have a lot of kids in that lower elementary school years. And once kids get into high school, you know, they have high school takes over. They have track, they have swimming, they have heat club, they have all these other things. And Kung Fu sometimes gets shuffled down to the bottom of the list. So it's up to us to kind of maintain a place where they can, you know, still be interested. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, I think we're making good time here. So last one I want to talk about is not to bring the one set of sparring gear. That's okay. So I want to be very clear about, because I think there were some questions here or complaints about it last year in terms of our some of our first time point sparring category. So I want to be very clear on that. And people, I don't know if you remember, but my son, when he was very first term, jumped in with that. When he played the first time sparring category, and he fought like he do like, you know, like the one person attacked, the other person.
Oh, yeah,
my son.
But I thought that was a good way to start.
Yeah, and I think that's a great category that we do. Oh, the first time sparring.
So having a spar, you attack first, you defend. Three times, and then we split, you attack.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I want this to be very clear, and forgive me, I didn't make a slide for this one because I just had different slides to make. But I want to be very clear. First time sparring category. Now I'll look real quick, and if I can see on, it's not necessarily a. Here, bear with me, guys. Okay, I'm just opening up the categories here.
No, they have, Little League softball, they have t-ball.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just like that. It's like having t-ball. Okay, so if you guys can see first time point sparring, can everyone see that, what I'm showing here? Everyone see those, everyone see that on my screen, okay? So this is FT1 through FT8. Now I want to be very, very clear about what first time sparring is, because I think there was a confusion about that last year. First time sparring is basically for our competitors who really never fought before in their life. And this is like, these are like your timid ones. You know, this is like the soccer mom who signed up for Kung Fu because she wanted to get some cardio. It's like, hey, well, maybe I'll try sparring. You know, obviously she doesn't want to go out there and get knocked out, right? So you're going to have your younger kids there. You're going to have your really, really true beginners. The goal of this category is strictly exposure. Now, I want to say that one more time. The goal of this category is strictly exposure. So as I'm kind of changing gears here, I want to highlight, and I'm going to write it here for everyone. Judges' priority during sparring is safety. And I'm going to echo that one more time. Your main priority is safety. You're not there to be a competitor. You're not there to be, you know, a spectator. Sorry, a spectator. You're not getting cheap seats to a front row fight. Okay, every single thing in going in your head is about safety, especially about first time sparring and point sparring. Okay, so first time point sparring, I believe it was last minute, was a minute and a half for each rotation. Something like that. It's like a minute and a half, I believe. Yeah, so a minute and a half. So first time point sparring goes, one person is going to attack and only attack, and then they're going to switch, and the other person is going to attack and only attack. It's just for exposure. This is where you're going to get your kindergartners, and this is where you know your first time people, that they're just going to get their basic exposure. It's not trying to find a winner. I'm very clear on that. Yes, they both will get. It's like an exhibition match. They both will get a medal. Okay. So our goal here, so that way, if you're talking to other schools, it's like, hey, you should go into first time sparring. This is your first time, and you know point sparring already. Just be very, very clear. This is the kind of thing you're going to be getting into. Okay. So this is kind of it's a way for people to kind of test the waters, see if they really like Kung Fu. Now I'll say this. Last year, some people were going into first time sparring, and some of the parents felt that their kids got hurt. And then it really turned them off about the experience. And then we end up losing a bunch of competitors. Okay? So we want to, you know, create a space that's safe for everybody, and at the same time, create a system where they can progressively increase their level of contact. So for me, for example, like I fought in all levels. I fought in point sparring. I fought in continuous. I fought in full contact. Okay, and as long as we're progressively building people's skill up, then we can create a safe place. Okay, is there any questions about the first time point sparring category? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Any questions? So everyone's clear. That first time.
Just to make sure I have it down, the first time sparring, there are still the age categories, correct?
Correct. But these are your beginners. Notice that it all says novice.
So the difference between first time sparring and novice is that the novice, this is not their first time. Is that simply that?
No. First time point sparring. This is their first time really in a tournament and ever fighting.
Okay.
The problem we had last year is people who never went to a tournament, after this division, they actually fought a lot in class. They had experience, they never went to the tournament. And that's how they ended up kind of dominating.
Yeah.
The teachers can go out and win. So
yeah.
We need to kind of clarify this on the site.
Yeah. So, but yeah, this should be your exhibition match. Okay. So only people in this category should be people just trying out Kung Fu, trying out sparring for their first time to get a little bit of exposure.
There's no score.
There's no score. It's just let them kind of feel it. Okay. And this is where you're going to build up that little bit of confidence, get over that kind of fear factor for some of these kids, and they're going to show up next year. Yeah. So I think that's that category. All right. The next one is obviously our point sparring. Let's talk about that later. And if I can have John give me a chest protector real quick. Oh, it's up there? Okay. So this is the recommended kind of chest protector. You can buy them anywhere, Amazon. You can get them from Built Up. I think they're called over in Atlantic. This is what we do. They're called something else. Same order. They just changed their name. Now I like these ones because they're reversible. You can, these. I think they're from Taekwondo. But you can also use that way if you say like this is red competitor, this is blue competitor. The all thing I like about this is this clearly shows where our legal targets. So I want to be very clear on point sparring. We've decided this year that, and a lot of point sparring is not this way. It is this way. That what you see in the chest protector is what is scoreable contact. And that's not to say that, for example, if someone throws a kick, he blocks it on his elbow, on his shoulder, whatever, fine, you get contact there. But scoreable contact has to be within the scoring area. Is there any questions about that before I go forward? Any questions? So scoreable contact is in the chest protector from the neck down to the bottom of the groin and to the sides. Okay? Illegal contact is obviously to the back, to the thighs, knees, right? And obviously to the head. Now, the reason why we did this is because, again, we want to create a progressive level of contact for these kids. That being said, point sparring also is, at least for safety, required to at least wear headgear. Because, yes, some kids will, some people will throw accidental or feint to the head, or they'll try to send something up there. Okay? Head contact, is not allowed in the point sparring category. Again, it's just mainly designed to be progressive. Is there any questions about that parameter?
You don't disqualify them, do you? They do.
We can we'll give one warning. It's so in sparring, it's 2 warnings, then DQ. So it's first warning, second warning, and usually like some center judges are really good about that. Now, through my observations, some center judges last year were getting a little bit too much into spectator mode. Remember, your first priority is safety. Okay, that means you need to break contact if it's getting excessive, or if there's some kid just plowing through another kid, right? You need to like, hey, stop, break. You need to keep it safe. Okay, you're not there to like, hey, let's see how these kids beat the crap out of each other. No, it's not. That's not how it's supposed to go. Okay, your priority is safety. Okay. Same time, for example, if you see excessive contact, illegal contact, you can say break. First warning, back of the head contact. Second warning, okay? Excessive or facial contact or grabbing of a sweep, and then you're gonna pull the thread aside like, hey, you got to watch it. You have second warning. The next one, I'm gonna disqualify. We've had disqualifications at Step 1 before. It's happened. We happened to my teacher's grandson before. He got disqualified, and yeah, he knew it. He knew exactly what he did. Even after he was a little bit mad after it happened. I said, hey, you knew exactly what was going to happen. If you throw attitude or whatever, it's going to happen. All right. Is there any questions about that format before we move forward in terms of point sparring?
Are you going to talk about the helmet?
Yes. So the helmet, so the helmet, it's a regular foam helmet, and it advisedly should have a shield protector. Now, regardless of whether you have a shield protector or not in the face, mouth guard is required. And this is the reason why. Some people say like, well, I got a face shield, don't need a mouth guard. If you take a shot up to your head and you close your teeth on your tongue, believe me, you're going to break some teeth. You get a hard enough shot, it'll happen. Especially like, some people like will try to go into continuous sparring. They'll act tough like, oh man, I can just wear a football helmet, whatever. I'll be fine. Trust me, you get a hard enough shot, we'll put you on the ground, and you're gonna wake up missing some teeth. It's not fun, right? Especially, new teeth cost a lot of money, right, Frank? Can't hear you, Frank. Frank, you gotta unmute yourself. Frank, and you. Oh yeah. All right. I think you hit the. Frank, what were you trying to say? Unmute. Unmute your button. Unmute your audio. Frank, you gotta unmute your audio. No, I can't hear you. No. He said something. Is there any other questions? Raise your hand if you have a question, or you can type it in your chat. Is there any other questions about point farming? Yes.
Oh, like, what if they don't make contact, or when kids are turning around, time's up?
Yeah, then whoever has the most contact at the end, and then you'll just get extended time. So let's talk about contact and also some of the scoring. So, and I will post some more clear slides for everybody. So once the center judge sees contact, he'll say break, and then he'll call for point, and then a judge will say, he'll say, oh, punch red, or kick red, or kick blue. The other ones that you're going to see is, for example, you're going to see this. They're going to have their eyes up like this, hands up like this. That means you didn't see the contact. Because we have 4 judges all around, that's perfectly okay. It will happen. You'll see like, oh, I didn't see it. So that's fine. Just say you didn't see it. Or, for example, if they both hit each other at the same time, you're going to go like this, make an X, means clash. That means they both hit each other at the same time, clash. The third one is no point. And then the reason why we want to do this, because, and it just drives me up the wall, is when some karate guys will go, they'll hit, yeah, and they'll raise their hand, and there was never any contact. So I want to be very clear. We will not accept that at all. So you better be very clear to your competitors. I will not accept screaming and yelling and declaration of point. I'm the judge. It's my call. And I want people to understand it, because at this point, at a higher level of competitiveness, you're going to better believe there's going to be a lot of Sifus trying to jump in and give them their 2 cents, or parents going to come in and say, well, you know, that was illegal conduct. Calm down. Okay? Any questions about that? Yes, sir.
So the chief judge should, they call stop, break to identify points. The chief judge needs to know that sometimes the chief judge's position is to the backside. And there may have been some engagement on the other side. The chief judge would still call break because it could have been a point where the chief judge may not have seen the clear point. But the other corner judges might have seen it.
So let me borrow Tim and John real quick. These are some of my students, and we'll kind of show you what a lot of times the chief judges do. So when I have 2 competitors, and I'll do it facing you guys. So I'll just have you guys here. Don't worry, they're not going to fight each other. But they're just going to face you. Can everyone see the both of them real quick? Yes? Everyone can see these 2 gentlemen right here? So when I'm starting, traditionally what I do is I always start the round. Competitors face me. Salute. Face each other. Salute. And I'll say, judges, ready. They'll give me a thumbs up. Timekeeper, ready. Timekeeper, ready. Hands up. Ready. Fight. When I call break, as they're fighting and they're moving around, they just start shifting around. I'll be moving around with them. If you're in spectator mode and you're kind of like this, then you're not doing your job. You need to be watching contact. So let's have a situation where John starts pushing, just really plowing into him. And I'm like, break. Back to center. Timer's still running, but you have to break either contact that's already hit a point. So you saw 1, 2, 3 points of contact already. Break it, save. And then once they say break, so just lightly tap him in the stomach. So ready, break. Judges. Point red. Didn't see it. Point red. Punch red. Scorekeepers are marking down. 1 punch red. Ready. Fighters, hands up. Ready. Fight. And so forth. Thank you, guys.
Little perspective on that. So, okay, ready. Hey, you get it. Right. So right away they go, oh, judges, call. Right away, all judges have to call this for right away, not your first or second, because this guy can see what he's doing, and this guy can see what he's doing, and should be influenced by it. We want every judge to be ready, same time, call it, what do you see? Boom. All right, 2 points. Okay, he says this, okay, 1 point, boom.
Right. So in some karate tournaments, they actually have scoring flags, which I would love for us to have. So that way, we call break. I'll be like, ready, judges score, score. And then they'll raise up their flag to who they scored. And if there is a no point, then they'll just say this. Or there's no clash, then they'll say this, and you'll be able to count around. So it will be simultaneous. So
I see too much hesitation on side judges because they really don't, they're not really used to it.
yeah,
So they look to see what the other judge did first.
yeah, I think that's a great suggestion, and we can easily facilitate that. We can easily facilitate that.
Can I say one more thing about point sparring?
Sure.
Point sparring is usually not just jacked around like sticker sparring. It's not just this, it's just like, this is just saying, boom, it goes. And go right in, boom, who's the best, gets the point first. Real quick.
Yeah, it can be real quick. It also can be, so I think one of the difference, for example, we see that traditionally a lot of audience. And
That's where it's most common.
yeah, it's a game of tag. For us, it's traditional Chinese martial arts, yeah, it's a game of tag. So because we want our students to progressively evolve, to go to continuous, we want to have good habits. Because to answer that, so when I fought against those karate guys,
Yeah.
none of them knocked me down. I sweep him on his butt, and I didn't know how to score. It was like, oh, you can hit him like crazy. So it was over. It's like, so it happened like that. And when I dumped him on his ground, like, that's not a point. Okay, fine.
Well, you know, that's because in karate, they only taught the soul punches. And so, never hit it, don't worry. So, don't move. And so, but I'm gonna kick them. So, oh, I'm gonna play something. So, maybe I'm gonna fake. Oh, oh! And they're gonna stop right here. They're trained to do that.
Yeah.
But it's the whole section just Japanese.
Yeah. So because we're coming through, we want to teach these guys good habits. We want to hey, so you can go and fight. You gotta hit.
Point five to evolve.
Yeah. So because we don't want our competitors to live in point sparring forever.
No, we don't.
Yeah, we want them to get, and then eventually, I would love for us to add back full contact. But if you progress from point to continuous to full,
Pretty much. Take advantage of what you just said. Not to digress. As the tournament operator, tournament operator, not just a coach on the sideline, said, come on, guys, get in there, in the operator.
Yeah.
See, that's what we wind up with, and then we say, hey, no, there's too much energy here. Next time we have to disqualify you. They don't know how to do that, they don't know how to control themselves.
Yeah, so that's why I think that during continuous, if we show that level of contact, and I'll show you guys what I mean by that. When we show the clip in a second, you'll be able to see that level of contact that's able to be done in control. So you guys remember my last fight in past week, where I'm gonna be you were there. I think you were my center touch. You're my center touch. That's a long time.
Your reputation precedes.
No.
I do remember you winning.
Yeah. So, but that fight, like for example, one of my first fights against one other guy, we were able to be controlled. We didn't clobber each other, but we were able to have clear technique. I think that's
But you do have guys that come in.
correct.
They
Correct.
know how to control.
So we just need to teach that lesson. If we are truly the stewards of traditional Chinese martial arts, we should be sending that message.
The colors I see is in most of our kung fu schools, they don't spar. But the guys, they watch TV, they see UFC and MMA. So there's opportunity to sign up for sparring, they sign up for sparring, it's their moment in the sun. You get carried away.
So I think that because the reason why I like that one, it was a great opportunity for people, even people who were, continuous sparring each other, because we showed that level of control. That's what set us apart from karate. Me and Anton became really good friends with Kat because we fought each other, and because we were controlled, we were having a good time, and even that guy that I fought in Pasadena, that Wilford, yeah, me and him were great friends after that fight. And because we have that opportunity to have that kind of relationship, I think that's why we should create that venue. But the minute we start saying like, hey, all full contact, bring it in without going through progression, then, you know, that's why we had to calm down those Muay Thai guys last year. They were firing for the fences. And I said, look, guys, you can show dominance without completely taking some guy's leg. I told him, like, hit me right now. He's kicking. I said, see, look, you can hit me, I can take it, and that's fine. But you don't need to take my leg off me. You don't take that guy's leg off.
What do you think I signed up for Muay Thai for?
Yeah. So it's just us kind of, you know, sending a good message out. Okay. So the final one that I want to talk about, especially you guys who judges possibly encountered, is the peanut gallery. So one of the things that we really, really need to harp down on, and you as a center judge need to say, if there's a judge like, get him, Steve, get him, like, okay, stop, break. Parents, there's no coaching. You know, it shouldn't be allowed. Now, that being said, they can go to their C4 sensei in between. So the joke that I always tell my students is like, because usually there's a 1 minute rest in between rounds. I said, you catch your breath in the first 30 seconds, that belongs to you. The last 30 seconds belongs to me. And that's where I'm going to powwow with you. So that's the way they can do it. Like, if you have any adjustments, you can go see your Sifu when you take your break. And then that's when you can do it. But not during. If it's almost like a technical foul like in basketball. You have really excessive, you can say, stop, break, warning, red flag. Okay, parents, judge, Sifu, please, I need you to refrain. Okay, refrain from going overboard. Okay, first warning. And believe me, they're gonna be like, oh, what do you mean, man? I'm just being a soccer dad or whatever. It has, you guys seen when parents really go out of bounds, like, we're crazy, right?
I try to tell them that, your responsibility as a people to keep your students to stand on their own feet, right, on the street. Yeah. Okay, so there's no coaching at that point. So you're preparing them to fight the unknown fighter from the middle school without coaching.
Yeah.
But yeah, you want to coach or during a break, you got to
And I'm guilty of it too. And I see my kids play basketball, I'm like,
you know, like, yeah, it's a hard thing to
Have to stop the fire because the parents, a whole bunch of verification for a particular group. They're used to like going to soccer games and going to. Come on, Johnny, come on, Johnny.
take that off.
I didn't say you want enough please. This is not boxing tournament, this is not, restaurant thing. This is a kung fu martial arts or we teach about respect for others.
Right.
And safety as well.
Correct.
So please refrain from any kind of thing.
Correct.
I think the hard part is then that some schools operate differently in the criteria. And the other challenge, I mean, you can have talks with judges, you know, you have to come up with something, for the future schools that want to participate, that are getting involved and corporate companies, so we train.
So the other presentations I'm working on that I'm hoping to create a YouTube and be public out there is for some of our rules. That way parents can kind of click on and read and people can watch real quick. And it'll just be a refresher like, hey, by the way, don't forget to watch our rules video, rule briefing, to understand what is acceptable, what is not. Things like that. Okay. Is there any other questions about point scoring?
I do have something I'm concerned about safety gear. I last tournament that we participated, a lot of the kids didn't have cups.
Correct. So males are supposed to have cups.
Right.
And so as a head judge, you are the gear check. So some get.
I think last year a lot of us didn't have the foot gear.
Yes.
So is that required or the opposite?
For our tournament, we don't require foot gear. I know ICMAC does. So it's really up to the tournament organization. How do you want to do it?
Are we going to have foot gear or not?
I thought we did require football.
I think it wasn't as enforced as well last year. Or the other question was people like if they're wearing foot gear, are they allowed to wear shoes? Okay.
No shoes.
So
No
I think,
shoes. No shoes, right?
yeah,
No
so,
shoes.
so it should be a padded foot gear like this. Hopefully everyone can see this. I like these foam ones because they're pretty universal and they're cheap. And if they really break, you just go buy a new one. They're not that fast. Okay, this one's just over the foot. Your foot's gonna be in here. You do have to keep in mind though that some of these people sometimes it gets a little slippery. And please, for crying out loud, trim your toenails before you put these on, because then you start jabbing people with your toenails. Yeah, we've always been an opportunity. For the hands, it's the same foam insert. Okay, and I really, really encourage us to kind of, you know, send this message out there, because once people start putting on MMA gloves or boxing gloves, it escalates the contact. Because people think, oh, I got boxing gloves, I'm gonna go knock this guy's head off. No. Like, if you are in a full contact category and that allows you to have boxing gloves, yeah, then that's different. But the minute you start putting on those kind of things, for some reason, it just kind of, it clicks something in people's heads and they think, hey, balls to the wall. Let's knock his head off.
How about the other gloves? Do the fingers come through and all that?
No, those are MMA gloves. So this, I strongly recommend this because it just keeps people's contact underneath them. One thing I also like to do for me in my school, and I recommend as judges, is you go up to your competitors when you pull the guy. Okay, guys, just a quick reminder. Okay, this is legal. This is legal. This is not legal. This is the kind of contact I want to receive today, guys. Nothing, you know, about right about there. So you can like, so you'll go up and tap your player like, this is what I should feel. This is what you should feel. Okay, so they get an idea. Okay, this is what I'm gonna get hit by, right? So it's not gonna be like that, like a game of tag. You're gonna feel, yeah, you're gonna get scored on. You're gonna get a kick in the gut. It's gonna feel like that. It's not a full-on boot kick, and you're gonna be like flying through the window, but you're gonna get hit a little bit. So just be prepared for that. And so as long as you communicate that expectation to your competitors, I think that's at least creating a safe environment. Any questions about point sparring? Sure.
If they do not have cups, to allow them to spar.
For a male, technically, we should not, or they just that they're at their own peril.
So if they're not being.
You should, yeah, we should though. I know that all of our players, we put that on, they should have a couple. Yeah, I think that gear check should be very, very clear that you should have a couple.
Whatever our rule is, you get to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think most people is you just tell them, make sure you have your equipment there, and you just ask. We all have cups, right?
Yeah.
And that's it. I'm not a physical cut off. As long as we say it, it's in writing, and we mention it, and if someone doesn't have it, they take a shot and go on. They're on it, that's on you.
Because you will still allow.
We don't really know for sure.
Unless when we do the lineup, so bars open sort of go. So usually what they'll do, like it's like shin guard check before a soccer game. They're just gonna go knock out. You'll knock your own cup. You'll knock out your own cup.
Ding ding.
Yeah.
Do that.
Same when you do that, guys. Judges, just like from the forums, you're gonna line up all your fighters here for a briefing. Head judges will be up here. Side judges will be there. You can say, okay, guys. This is what we're looking for today. Please restrain yourself. This is what's legal. Don't forget. And so we're reminding them, this is what I'm allowing. Let me do a quick gear check. Okay. Hopefully we'll get out the message quickly. Remind them, hey, this is the gear we're looking for. Okay. Any questions on point sparring? Frank?
Kevin, I do have a question. Last year, I had also experienced the kid size. They're the same age, but the kids, one big, one small. I mean, one was like twice the size of the other kid. And how are you going to address those kind of concerns?
Yeah, we're gonna try our best to size people correctly. I mean, some especially like when you get those ages like 10 to 12-year-olds, you're gonna get some 12-year-olds that just hit his growth spurt. He's towering 130 pounds. 5'7", we're over like a little 8-year-old kid who's like my son Nathan, he's 10 years old and 50 pounds.
Get a situation like that where we have a small kid, a little kid surprised the heck out of us.
Yeah.
Oh, he tried harder.
Well, it's up to the chief judge when they pair them off and do the practice.
Yeah.
To not the practice.
I know that for ICMAC, part of the registration for you is you do enter in your weight. If you want to, we can do a quick weigh-in, but you should use your common sense. If obviously you have a smaller kid fighting a larger kid, try to avoid that. But if they both do well, eventually in the finals, they're going to meet each other somehow. It's gonna happen.
you know, from the parking lot.
Yeah.
Well, because it's not full contact, therefore the weight.
The weight shouldn't really matter. For point sparring, the contact should be controlled anyways, and so I think that's also where discrepancy is. We need to clearly dictate, this is what is acceptable contact. And I believe, I remember who you're talking about, like, there's one of that kid was actually wearing boxing gloves, so he was really pummeling through the other kid.
Here's the photo system.
So, you know, our goal is to try to keep it as,
That's what the chief does,
Yes.
control the contact.
yes.
But if you're still maintaining the contact, and you're still relying on techniques smaller than bigger, it should still, you know, test themselves in
Yeah.
that regard.
So the biggest piece of advice I can give to all the judges is make sure you check, are you being a spectator or are you being a judge? Your priority still is safety. If you see some hard shots, boom, getting in, and it's backing this kid up, you're like, you can tell them like, hey, calm down, dial it back a little. Okay, you don't need to penalize them. You can just say like, hey, dial it down a little bit. You know, you can do that. And if he keeps on going, he says, hey, you know what? Come on, dial it down. Next one's gonna be a warning. Okay, so on warnings, 2 warnings. Third one is a DQ. No questions asked. Now, those warnings can be technicals against the crowd, against the person's behavior, and believe me, it even happened where the competitor, after it's done, didn't want to shake hands with the other competitor. We don't roll like that at all, and that's absolutely unacceptable. And I'll say it like it happened to my secret grandson, and I told him that you get your butt back there, and you go shake hands with that kid, and you go apologize to his supervisor. I corrected him. I said, I don't care how you thought that fight went. You get your butt back there and you go. That's not how we win. And but that's, you know, we are in a teaching moment as judges and as martial artists where we can teach this respect. And I want Chinese martial artists to be able to distinguish ourselves away from other martial arts because we carry that respect. Otherwise, what are we? You know, we should be declassified. Absolutely. Okay.
Drawing blood, accidental.
Correct.
Is.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, if a guy gets, it happened to me one time in Las Vegas. I was fighting a guy and he drew blood and I think he got disqualified or he, it happens. So we got to be careful. That is hence that's why we have the head here. We have the. Technically, there should be no drawing blood there at all. Okay. Any other questions on point sparring? For the room? Nope. Okay. Moving on to continuous sparring. Okay, this is all the fun stuff. All right. So continuous sparring. These are no. I'll back it up here. This is more for your advanced students. Oh, sorry. Let me back it up here. These are more your intermediates and advanced. So I'll go down here, so bear with me, guys. Everyone can still see my screen, right? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. So here we see 14 through 17-year-old. Now, keep in mind this year, we're not having continuous sparring for adults because we just don't have the manpower to do it. But, you know, our focus is just to kind of really concentrate on these kids. It's 14 through 17 years old. Okay, you have beginners, intermediate, and advanced. Usually by this time, those competitors should have already done point sparring before. They've been with you for at least a couple of years. Even though it says beginner, they should be been with you as a student for at least a couple of years. Per ICMA rules, because I think that's a pretty good format, head contact with a kick is allowed to the side of the head contact. Hand contact to the head is allowed, light contact to the side of the head. Okay? Front facial contact should not be happening. Okay, because that's where you draw blood. So if you draw blood on the other person, obviously you're going to get disqualified. So don't get yourself disqualified. That being said, you can still have, and you know, talk back to that Pasadena fight. You can still have a perfectly good match with somebody and fighting without drawing blood and still making head contact. You get them upstairs, you can get them downstairs. You can do a lot of things without completely destroying the person. We are trying to encourage good technique and good classic fighting. So let me borrow John and Tim. Okay. This one also has sweeps, but it's only to the front leg. So if you have both left forward fighting each other, that means John, if you guys can see his, can you see their legs okay? I think you can, good, perfect. That means John can throw, say, a punch kick to his head, and then throw a right sweep to his front leg and put him on the ground. That's legal. Is any questions on the sweep? Raise your hands if you have any questions. Nope? Okay. However, if he sweeps the supporting leg, so say Tim throws a roundhouse and John catches it, roundhouse kick, he catches it, catches the kick, and he dumps the support leg, that is illegal. Is there any question on that? Any questions?
No.
Okay. Any elbows to the face is legal. Those are some pretty serious ones. Also, any chokes, headlock, things like that, that is immediate. If you throw some guy in a guillotine, does everyone know what a guillotine is? Raise your hand if you don't know. Hopefully everybody knows what a guillotine is. So if I put a guy like this and throw him in a guillotine, I got his neck, and I'm trying to stop him from breathing, that's an automatic issue. For those of you guys in Sealand Pod, you know that's a bench hit. So like Don, I know you were there when it happened to him. The whole Sealand Pod cleared the bench. And it's a gang fight. So you better not be doing that. That means you're really trying to hurt somebody. Okay? So that should never happen. So any kind of chokes, grabs like that, any kind of submission hold like that, that's we ain't about that. Okay? No, that should never happen. Okay? In terms of, yes, sir.
Besides the front leg hook, they can do
Correct. Yeah. So front leg, so if Tim is here, you left forward, I can sweep this way or sweep this way. Once the sweep is established, the fighter needs to disengage. There is no, I got him on the ground and I'm going to try to score again. It's not like some point for where they get on the ground and the guy goes, yeah, they do like that. We're not trying to do that. Once the person's down, they should back away.
The disrupt the balance. The guy slightly fall and then back off.
Correct. The other part is, for example, if they grab the leg, so give you a right roundhouse, you grab the leg. If nothing happens at this point, after a couple seconds, they need to drop the leg and disengage. Okay, that's happened to me before in a tournament as well, where like I grab the guy and I'm ready to take on, nobody can do it. Like, all right, fine. Leg down.
2 seconds.
Yeah, it's about 2 seconds. Okay, everyone clear that? So regardless of which leg you're holding, once you grab it, if there's no technique after it, you need to drop the leg and disengage. So you as a judge need to catch those safety moments. Now remember, as a judge, continuous sparring, you're going to see a lot more people trying to bend those rules. So you absolutely have to. I know a lot of us love being ringside on a fight, but you have to keep safety in mind. Okay? I know that there should be no question about that. So if you're a judge and you're like, hey, I like fighting, I like to see it. I maybe judged one time before. Maybe not. I'm not. I need to know that you are an experienced judge and you have clearly judged this type of fighting before. Okay, it should be light contact sparring. So the way I put it is for people to remember. Light contact sparring is like sparring your classmate in class. So all of us have fought our classmates. We're not trying to kill our classmates. Like, hey, we're playing. Okay, that's the term we use. We're playing. We're scoring here, scoring there, showing our technique. That's what you should be seeing. Okay? When you graduate to full contact, that's a different story. Right? Okay? But at this level, light contact, this is where you technically make friends. Right? That's how all of our guys become friends with yours. We fought each other and we had good times. Hey, good shot. Okay, cool. You got me there. Great. You know, and it was good. And nobody got hurt. Done. Okay? That's how it should evolve. Okay? This age bracket, guys, I guarantee you is a really, really delicate because this is where you're going to make or break people to whether they're going to continue martial arts for the rest of their lives. Because at 14, 15 years old, if they figure out, you know what? I just don't like Kung Fu anymore, then you've lost them. That's it. Because, you know, I'd rather go swim or play on track. Why should I risk myself getting, hurt or whatever? Right? Our rules should support them. Now, that being said, our rules can let them escalate to full contact, whatever, and then they can explore those avenues. But it should be progressive. Any questions right now on here?
Oh, Kevin, I have a question. So on the sweeps, it's not a takedown. We don't do takedowns, right?
You can sweep, front sweep to take down, or take down. But after they're down, you walk away from it.
Gotcha. And how about no thigh kicks, correct?
No thigh kicks, correct. No thigh.
So the takedown sweep with the V kick, and I'm gonna block, and I drop them, and I step in, and I just do a little bit, that's it.
Yeah.
This is rough and balance, that's it. So you basically deflecting the front kick, and you move in, and that's it. So there's no follow through when the guy goes halfway down or goes down.
You guys?
Yeah, putting the support leg.
Yes, correct. Yes,
Yeah.
that should be a DQ. So that's very, very clear. Because the reason why that's dangerous is because once you take away the support leg, the head has to travel down all the way to the ground, all 5'10" of me, and all 200 plus pounds of me. And so that's a lot of weight to bring down on a head. And remember, we are on a hard basketball surface. Now, when we fought full contact, we had padding on either, and that was different. So we encourage full on contact. That's different. But if you're on a flat surface, you know, the main thing the beast fighters should be able to doing is they should be able to using their techniques to get in good strikes and be able to convince me at the end of the day that they won that round. So let's talk about scoring real quick. So let me borrow John and Tim real quick one more time. So this one is going to be divided up by color. So I would say that John is this is white, this is gray. Okay? And then they're fighting, and I say time. They'll back away. And then it'll be simultaneous scoring, just like we did earlier with the point mark. I'll say judges score. Black, gray, winner, gray. Then you give them their 1 minute. It's turn. That's the fighter's turn, and that's it. Usually, also at that time, sometimes I'll bring in, if you're a head judge, bring in your judges. Like, okay, guys, this is what you look for or whatever. You can do that. But this is the time that the fighters go and talk to their Sifu for any kind of no something like that. Okay. And so it's best of 3. You win 2, that's it. But if it's 1-1, then you fight your third. Any questions on that format? And it's a 2-minute, right? 2-minute round. Any questions on that? Pretty straightforward. All right. In case of injury, we always do this for karate school as well. So I have these two fighting here. Pow, 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 and then suddenly, boom, the ball gets in the balls. Turn, kneel, and he'll go and get some time with the Sifu and let him rest. If it's a straight up groin shot, we'll give him like 5 minutes, something like that. Just to make sure he's okay. But if it's a quick, it's hurt me real quick or my shoulders, we'll give him a long time. But then we do have to continue the action. Like, Now, in events after that, some kids, for example, this will happen. They'll just take a hard shot to the stomach. It's continuous sparring, and then like, I can't do anymore. Then they'll say, does not want to continue. Then the black fighter wins by default.
We had that happen one time. It looked like I came in and did the reverse pass kick right in the stomach, that went down. And, he was in the hospital.
Yeah. So, yeah.
There should be excessive contact.
Correct. Yes. Continuous sparring, there should be excessive contact. Yeah. So that's why some tournaments they'll say like, oh, for continuous, they'll say like, oh, you don't need to wear a chest. You just do it at your own peril. But it's there for your safety. you can still get injured. So just like we talked about with point sparring for case sparring, you should still map out to your competitors. Okay, guys, want a clean fight? Decide this is okay, this is not okay. Contact, something like that. Okay, nothing too crazy. Protect each other. Keep your hands up at all times. You know, it's not rock and fucking robots. Okay, any questions on that, guys?
I do have one. What if it's an excessive force and the kid knocks the win out of the other opponent? Would that be considered, and the kid says, you know what, I had enough, so would that be a DQ, or would that be just the other opponent wins?
So there's a fine line between, did he just get, for example, he just did a good boom, reverse, and he just walked into it. So it happened to one of my students at Pasadena. He just walked into a good front kick, laid him out, knocked the wind out of him. The other kid didn't get DQ'd, and he shouldn't have, because it was my student's own fault for walking into it. But if the kid is chasing some down, pow, 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 Sparta kick, you know, then like, look, that's excessive contact. You will see the intent. For example, this guy is just going, you know, you as a fighter should know when you're dominating that match. And if you can't, then you're just lying, you know. But, you know, us as judges, we should know, like, okay, I know that this fighter is better than this fighter, and I know this guy needs to knock out. Also, in between matches, you can tell that other guy that's dial down a little bit. You don't need to tell him, like, hey, you're the better fighter here, but you say, like, dial down. You know, even when you were judging one of my fights, you felt like, hey, fighter, you know, be careful your kicks. You know, because the guy with Wilford was he's a kicker. He's an Olympic Taekwondo fighter. So he kicks me. So they're like, hey, be careful. It's fine. So
it goes down to the chief judge who has the experience, the chief fighter to know when the fighter has a tiger in the eye, he wants to put the hurt on him.
yeah.
Or if the other guy is defense and he's getting tired, and you already know that one fighter has already got dominating the match. If he lays out on the guy while the guy's fatigued, that's intentional.
Yeah.
So that's where that guy gets disqualified because of contact. Yeah. But accidental, like people tell us that sometimes that happens. Guys walking hard at no defense and walked into a kick. So that's not the same scenario.
Yeah.
Yes, this is common. We have, three medical professionals, we have NP, PA, and 3 year nurse.
Yeah.
So at least have 3 medical professionals that is happy versus the home, so I'm gonna say that they will have.
Yeah, we have in the past, I know we should. Anyways, there should be a birthday station anyway. And that should be their dedicated role. I would hate to pull you and myself away from our duties to go and do that, and then focus on that, and then we lose concentration yeah, and that's perfectly fine. Paying for an EMT I think is a reasonable expense to pay. That way, he's dedicated to do that, and that his only job is to do that. And whereas on our side, you know, we're in multiple hats on that day. I believe me, you're gonna have brain legs, bumps, and we can't. Yeah, exactly. You got food to sell.
You're on the floor, you have sandwich.
Yeah, sandwich and a bandit. Sandwich and a bandit. Any other questions about continuous sparring?
I had a question.
Go ahead, sir.
So in the case that someone comes to the tournament and they want to do the continuous sparring, but they don't have the required gear, are they going to be allowed to compete or no?
Can't let them do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, borrow or steal. And it's happened before. Like we've done a big tournaments and someone asked like, hey, can we borrow your like, yeah. So we like in our school we can have a bunch of communal gear that our students
should
use.
be borrowing from their own.
Yeah.
Not from just the school.
So
you would think they're their own someone else.
So there was one time at Temple, there was a full contact fight. I think he came in and he didn't have gloves, so he had to borrow my gloves, and I was a spectator, but I was, you know, and he's like, can I borrow your boxing gloves? Really? get into a full contact fight without, gear. I mean, it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
But yeah, whatever. But yes, we should discourage anybody. So they should have everything. So if you're asking about continuous sparring, they should have the foam head, ideally fishing gear, mouth guard, cup, chest protector, foam hands, foam feet.
Mhm.
That's
Gotcha.
pretty
Because
universal.
I was just gonna say in the past I've seen it where there's a guy that comes in, doesn't have a chest protector, and then he was allowed to compete, and then without the chest protector because there was no one to give him an extra. So then the other competitor had all of his gear, but then was told to like, oh, you have to take it easy on this guy because he doesn't have the required
Yeah,
gear.
I agree, and I think I know exactly what you're talking about too. I remember that instance. It was in that ring, and I think we really need to just kind of make it universal. Like, you got to wear the gear. The only place that you're kind of bringing at your own risk is at full contact. But if we make it universal, especially for this tournament, since it's all youth that are fighting, chest protector, everything, full gear should be mandatory.
Gotcha.
It was last year. It was one of the adults, and this one guy came in and he didn't have a chest protector, and then so we had to tell the other guy, well, like dial it down a little bit. But if he's already dialing it down, and the other guy's, oh, I'm hurting, it's like, well, you're the idiot that didn't bring your chest protector, So I'm just gonna have very expensive rentals.
Yeah.
One last comment on judging of contiguous. Let's say the match is fairly equal from an offensive standpoint. So the judges should take into consideration, the footwork or the defensive
Yes.
or having some strategy. So you would score that fighter, the dominant fighter. So let's not forget our continuous sparring component really takes in the whole scenario fighting, not just offensive strength.
Yeah, I think that happened to me. I think in Saturday at that time where I was fighting with because I think they judged on that. You were throwing a lot of kicks. I was like, yeah.
But then again, the lack of experience judges.
Yeah.
I may have judged you as a fighter, but then I'm.
They're like, oh, he kicked him 10 times. Hey, didn't hit me. Didn't hit me.
Doesn't count.
Yeah, exactly.
It'll look more aggressive.
Yeah, right.
But there's nothing there.
Yeah.
Nothing there.
Great. Any other questions, concerns?
My concern is on the
I
continuous.
have a question if you can hear me.
Let me get Frank's in and then Russ, you're next.
On the continuous sparring, is it going to be by weight, height? How are they going to match?
Continuous sparring is because youth is by age, and then we will try to match people obviously by clearly visible size and weight. The best to our ability. I think our enrollment for sign up this year is maybe not as many people this year. It might be a little more manageable. And also sometimes in the events up there, like there's one time like where there was a girl who didn't have an opponent, and then we just give her an exhibition match. We just pulled up one of the guys, and they just followed him, and it was both equal first place. So sometimes we'll just do that.
Okay.
Especially, for example, if it's in a category like there's a clear mismatch, then sometimes we'll pull a boy and say, like, can someone give her an exhibition match? And I think that's reasonable. Does that answer your question? Great.
Yes.
Okay, Russ, you had another question?
Yes, hello, everyone. I'm sorry I'm late. I'm coming from another meeting. I had an issue last year and a few years ago when I interrupt a full contact match. It's what you called it, the peanut gallery. Standing coaching, I think, it intimidates the other competitors and it gives favor to the person that's fighting. And a lot of these guys are higher ranking seafools. So it's hard to tell them, hey, you can't coach on the sideline. I would suggest no coaching on the corners, and everybody that's going to watch a fight has to be seated.
So Russ, thank you for, so we brought that up earlier, and so I'd like to read that point. So we're going to make the rule that there is no coaching from the parents or also from their Sifu while the match is in play. Once we've broken them for their 1 minute break, then they can talk to their Sifu. If you see a violation for that, that can be one of their warnings in their 3 warnings for this disqualification. So if you see that, hey, coaching, first warning, blue fighter. Okay, please, no coaching from the side. You can warn them once, like, guys, please, no coaching. You see it again, okay, warning, blue fighter. Sifu, I've already talked to you, that's a single warning. Happens again, second warning, I'm not gonna say again, Sifu. Third warning, DQ, back over, winner, great, done. You got a problem, take it to the coaches. They can hoot and holler all they want. But as long as we set that precedent, so for example, if we are there and we have our judges at a meeting, when we have all the competitors, we can clearly say, okay, everyone listen up. This is continuous sparring for 14 to 17-year-olds, intermediate category. There is no coaching. Parents, do you understand me? People, do you understand me? I'll give you maybe 1 warning. After that, official warning, second warning, third warning, disqualification of fighter. Questions? Done. So just be
answered. Also, what about
Yeah, it sounds
photography?
great.
Because we also had a mom that we also
It'll cost you a book. That answer your
we
question?
also had a mom that wanted to. You second. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
We also
go
had
ahead.
a mom. We also had a mom that she was I think one of the senior instructors from one of the classes, and she played it like she was the official photographer for that school.
Mhm.
So what about photography? I just think it's easy to referee a fight from the center if you don't have other people standing. So what about photography? Are we going to have a rule in place as far as who's photographing whom and when and how?
The priority to the space goes to the competitor and the judges. So if they're like, oh, I just want to live right here, and I'm gonna take up the seat. No, I'm a fish photographer. No, it's okay. It's like, no. You want a photographer, get a zoom lens, go to the stands. It's just, if you want to hold yourself on the side behind people, that's okay. But all this space belongs to the competitors first, judges second, nobody else. So when they're sitting down on the side waiting for their match, there should be nobody else sitting there. That's not their territory. So we can very clearly, because it's distracting. Because fights are not going to only live here. Something like pow, 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 pow. Boom! I just knocked over your $5,000 camera. Well, tough beans. We told you. Go buy a new camera. So yeah, very good question. Any other
Russ, Russ, I like your input about having people sit down, because I noticed that when people start rushing the corners and they're standing up, it intimidates the fighters and also the opponent, because you have all these people standing and cheering and egging on the fight.
Looks like a cockfight.
Yeah, exactly. So I like the idea of sitting down, having everybody sit down. It's more of a calm space of to compete.
Warning by the manager or the court?
Center judge. All warnings are only from the center judge. It's a very good question. If you see something, okay, and you're a corner judge, you can say, time, judge, can we talk to you for a second? And then you're gonna stop timer. You can say, like, look, this is going on in the back right here, excessively. And then because you can stop the time, and you can, and then main judges, if you see one of your guys, you're like, hey, you raise your hand, you say, time, judges, pull it in, fighters, turn, kneel, and then you'll talk, and they'll say, hey, this parent behind is going nuts, man, it's too much, and they're like, okay, we'll recognize that. Okay, thank you, judges. Parents, please, no judge, no coaching, excessive coaching from the side, please. If you do, we're going to issue a warning to the fighter. Just like that. But yeah, but all warnings should be coming from the main judge. Okay. This was also a thing of contention last year, which I saw, and I'm trying to correct it. I think you didn't listen. Is you as a center judge, especially during sparring, you are not the final judge in terms of the word. So if you have 1 point, 1 point, 1 point, 1 point, you're not like, well, yeah, I'll give a point to blue, for black. That's not your goal, because you're right up here, right? Maintain safety is not to be like, oh, I think this guy won. Your job is safety. So that Sifu, I won't say who, at that time was like, here, and then, oh, well, you know, Red Fire won. And I'm like, what do you mean Red Fire won? They scored here. You have no say. Your center judge is not to score the fight for a continuous sparring fight. Okay, very clear on that? And even for point sparring. The center judge is to maintain discipline and safety. You're not a scoring judge. Is that clear on everybody?
Not sure if the rules say on the end of the neck.
I think we went to extra time. Yeah, we usually go to like extra time.
But that's correct.
Yeah, the center.
Continuous sparring, the center judge is not.
So that Sifu who was making calls every single round. And as I was kind of on the other ring, watching like,
So the first round could end up being a draw,
yeah,
and then the second round could be the winner.
Yeah.
And then, then you could go to a third round. So
Correct.
Two out of three.
Yeah.
First round could be a draw.
Correct.
Or second round.
correct.
Okay, I think you're tied again.
Yeah, it can be. It can be. And then they have to done that. Yeah. 1 minute. Yeah. That's why we train our fighters, even though like we want to win best two, we train them to endure 3 or 4 rounds.
And then that's why also to make sure people know about the overall fight, defensive wise.
Yeah.
Because if you give them some thought, you probably shouldn't have the time.
Yeah, the guy just like boom, 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 and nothing.
Looking for offense, and all of a sudden you can't call it.
Yeah. The lens that we look in for point sparring and continuous sparring are 2 different lenses. And so we got to understand that point sparring, we're looking for the points. Continuous sparring, we're looking for technique dominance.
Going back, that kung fu is skill,
Yeah, kung fu is skill. Yeah,
not
absolutely.
kickboxing.
Correct.
Oh, gee,
I know you were out sick on that.
Any other questions?
Kevin, what happens if it's a tie score? Does it go sudden death or
Correct.
does it
Sudden
go?
death. Sudden death, 1 minute.
Okay. And what happens after sudden death? It's still tied. What do you do?
Well, then you need to pull the judges aside and say, like, hey,
Okay.
now, in an off case, sometimes you'll get a classy fighter, and like for example, like they're just doing a exhibition match, and then they want to give the round. You'll see them bend down like this, and they'll tap like that. And then what this means, they're giving the round to their opponent. Okay, and that's usually sometimes like out of respect or something special going on. You'll recognize a special occasion. Sometimes like they're hurt, the other competitor's hurt, and they really respect them, or like they might be from the same school. And they say, like, hey, I want to fight my brother. I'm just gonna tap, give him the round. They're allowed to do that, but that's how they'll respectfully do it. They'll just kneel down and they'll tap the ground, and they'll end the round. Any other questions? Okay, so that's pretty much it. Well, we already talked about the main things for disqualification, but the main thing is when you go into a problem, defer to the main judge's table. Don't try to necessarily like fight some Sifu on it. Believe me, I dealt with it last year, and it was like, just sound like, sorry, these are the rules. If you have a problem, please talk to them. And we'll take it that way. But because the minute if you give the impression that you are negotiable at your ring, especially if you are the head judge, then all hell is going to break loose. And then people are like, well, I want this. I want my guy to be able to wear this or whatever. It's just going to it's going to escalate. All of our rings, whether they're sparring or whether they're forms, should be able to move quickly as long as we follow our guidelines. And it should be able to flow. I mean, we're starting the tournament at what, 8, 9 o'clock in the morning? No. With 6 rings, we should be able to be done by 2 o'clock easily. And that's even the time for doing that. Any So one of the things that we were gonna try to do this year, because I know that went away last year, is there is, I believe, 8 competitors right now sign up for Grand Champion. And so we are going to finish Grand Champion first before we move on, because I think that was the problem last year. I know I was in, like, one of the secrets was in Grand Champion judging, and I was waiting for him to show up in my ring. So I think the big better thing is get Grand Champion out of the way, boom, done, and then just move forward. Okay? And I think I think the board is considering with their own considerations for Grand Champion. That way it's more controlled. Like the board's picking who they want for Grand Champion. That way it's not just like some senior student here. Okay. All right. And I think there's also a question that I also is the 2 forms for Grand Champion back to back.
No.
So they do a hand form and they have a minute to like get their breath and they go straight into the button form. Is there like, do they get 30 seconds to breathe or? So the other thing is, and which I know, for example, you know, the Grand Champion last year, their form was 30 seconds. So are we putting any criteria on it, or is it just? The hand form was 30 seconds.
I just know this form is going to be
So his hand form was 30 seconds.
Oh, I don't know. I don't think there was OSHA did the same minimum, 30 seconds. So, if it's a short form, it's a short form. Subject is take that on another
So, I mean, we'll you know. Is there any other questions before we close it? Okay, Seafoods and Seahings and everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. I will post this video so that, because I recorded it today, so that you guys can review, and I also post up some additional the slideshow as well, so that you can all review as well. If you have any other additional questions, I know there are a lot of judges that we reached out to who weren't able to make it to the Zoom as well in person today. That's okay. We'll because we have this electronic version, we'll be able to reach them. And I might do another Zoom session maybe next weekend as well if people need to jump in.
morning.
When I think Superfenton just opened up so I can see the categories now. I couldn't before, and so now I can start making breaking time. Okay, and yeah, that should be pretty much it. Any questions? Thank you so much. Hopefully everyone who signed in put their name and their phone number, email, and also their school affiliation in the chat so I can track you guys. Okay, and if you haven't reached out to me or yet, please do email me or reach out to me. And I thank you once again. Okay, great. Thank you guys. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.